while cumulative tests so far conducted at 3,076,181. This as Newswire and the entire Standard Media Group continues to urge you to go get tested, continue observing the COVID-19 protocols, but most importantly, go get inoculated so you can protect yourself, those that you love, as you strive in fighting this scourge of COVID-19. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked, and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Friday morning, first week of January actually done. And what are we looking at in terms of traffic this Friday? Nothing much. Things are still at a dull roar, except when you look at Mombasa Road. That has already started to build up around Imara Daima. Stretch here and there. Southern Bypass is looking pretty good. However, Langata Road also looking great. Jogga Road is starting to build up, especially right after the Makadara train station going towards Mbotela. And Kamkunji, the normal morning madness has already started well into the CBD. Coming off other parts of the city, doesn't look too bad this morning. Thika Superhighway, no traffic at all. Kiambu Road doing swimmingly well. Coming out of Westlands, not really, except on Waiaki Way, getting towards Chiromo into the CBD. Let's take a look at what happens as the morning opens up. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Get in touch with us there. Text 40127.
Broadcasting worldwide, Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in
9
punching
minutes
up,
after 6.
not
Good
down.
morning. How are you doing? Happy Friday. It's the 7th day of January 2022. The first week of 2022, done.
In the bag. Tick,
Like that.
tick.
Just like that. 51 to go. Just like that. What have you done with your life in 2022? Huh? Where? Yeah. Think about it. Oh, resolutions. Oh. You know all those things that you wanted to do by, May 2022? Huh? The May is coming.
What you saying?
Time is running out.
Do it now.
Do it. Or just be realistic. Tell yourself, yeah. How are you doing, Ndu?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, Eric.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Ringing in the weekend.
Kabisa.
Uko sawa?
Mimi niko salama kabisa.
Uliendeleaje kutoka wakati nilikuona mwisho? Hey, please just wait. Just clap for me.
Uliona mwisho yangu lini?
Can we focus on my Swahili?
You've done very well.
Thank you very
well
much.
Done.
Thank you,
well
thank you.
done. Oh my goodness. Where did you learn all that? You have a very good teacher. Or is it a set of teachers?
The students. It's a good student.
Yeah, you're a good student.
Indeed.
Okay. Welcome to the conversation, everybody. We'll have a guest at 7 who is... Yesterday we had one young musician who wants to be a member of the County Assembly of Nairobi. Today we have another young musician who wants to be a member of the County Assembly of Machakos County, and specifically of Athi River Ward. And this is Frasha. What is their group called?
I don't
Frasha, Kolo, and Buga Buga. P-Unit.
Have you just made something up?
P-Unit. No.
Okay.
It's called Gabu. Yeah, from P-Unit. So Frasha will be joining us at 7 o'clock. Let's talk about new leadership in the counties, new leadership in the National Assembly. You know, one of the things that's going to be pretty obvious as we go into the election is that more than half of the next parliament, whether it's national parliament or county parliaments, is going to be comprised of new leaders.
Indeed.
First-timers.
Yeah.
So we want to talk to those would-be first-timers as we go into August 9th next year.
This year? This year?
This year. Oh, it's this year?
It is.
We're already there.
Yes.
Ooh-wee. Hiya. Anyway, let's then look at COVID-19 in numbers.
Let's look at what's going on in the world. Let's start with Kenya first of all, and then we'll look at some crazy numbers. 5 million cases yesterday alone across the globe. The world has now crossed the 300 million mark in terms of COVID-19 cases from the first time it made its entrance in late 2019. 2,336 new cases is what we're looking at in the country. From a sample size of 10,558, we have a positivity rate of 22.1%. Now, I'm sure we've seen the stories in the last couple of days about Florian, what it's being called, combination of the flu and this Omicron variant of COVID-19. So for the first time, you have a flu combined with COVID, and that is what you get. But this is what is racking up the numbers around the world. The good thing is that, again, it's worth mentioning that the severity of symptoms is not like that of the other variants. Okay, let's look at how COVID is now affecting very many things in the world, and just specifically sport this morning. The Australian Open, which is a Grand Slam that takes place every January, is happening this year. And one of the things that they said before that is, look, we're trying to protect everybody. Players who are going to come and play an exhibit during this tournament need to have been vaccinated against COVID-19. The defending champion, Novak Djokovic, had his visa to enter Australia revoked on his arrival in Melbourne amid a huge backlash over a vaccine exemption. He was held in the airport for several hours after border officials announced he had not met any rules. He was taken to a government detention hotel, and a court will decide on his deportation come Monday. The row is around an exemption he had to play in the Australian Open. He's not been vaccinated, and he's been very open about this. He said he's opposed to vaccination, and he had been granted a medical exemption by 2 independent medical panels organised by Tennis Australia, the body that runs the event, and the state of Victoria. So, of course, the country was infuriated because, remember, just a few months ago, they were under total lockdown. There was insistence on vaccinations. And now here you are having a global tournament where you're bringing in individuals then who are anti-vaccination. And they said, absolutely not.
Hakuna.
People have had to endure some of the world's strictest restrictions, and some still cannot travel between the states of Australia and internationally. So they said, absolutely not. Are we going to allow this to happen? 34-year-old had failed to provide appropriate evidence for entry after arriving from Dubai and is now being held in Melbourne. until the immigration status is decided.
So has he
Defending
has he
champion
said,
may not be able to defend his title in Australia.
well, number one, has he said why has he spoken about vaccination or what he feels about vaccination?
He's an anti-vaxxer. That's just it.
Total anti-vaxxer or just COVID?
It would be interesting to know because he has small children.
Is it about
Interesting to know, or if it's just
COVID
COVID.
vaccine hesitancy or anti-vaccination?
It would be very interesting to know this. His
And I keep
reason
saying-
for exemption has not been disclosed. But contracting COVID, and remember, he had COVID-19. He recovered from COVID-19. He's not been vaccinated, but they're not, making it public the reasons as to why Tennis Australia decided to grant him this medical exemption from vaccination in order to participate in the tournament. So it'll be very interesting to see how the things play out on Monday. We're looking at the tournament starting in the next 1.5 weeks. And if he can't defend his title, it will be sad that he would not be able to defend his title on something like this. But at the same time, what are you going to say to citizens who've been, again, under some of the strictest restrictions?
Well, not all of them are vaccinated anyway.
No, not all of them
I
are.
come back to that conversation on it's okay. So, yes, let governments promote vaccination. But let governments not force vaccinations.
True.
Let governments not stifle anybody who is hesitant to take the COVID vaccine for whatever reason. Listen to their reasons. These are sports personalities. Maybe they're looking at, okay, so I don't know what this thing is likely to do to my sporting career. I don't know what this thing is likely to do even next time I'm going to get tested for, doping and all. I don't know what it's going to do. So before I'm 100% sure of it, I want to be careful.
Sure.
There are many people who are basically just not going for the COVID vaccine for various reasons of they just are not 100% sure and certain. And you don't say, come on, if you're not sure, then stay in the house.
It's interesting, as you say, that many Australians have previously accused the government of allowing the rich and famous to do as they please, while ordinary people remain separated from sick and dying loved ones. That's the end of that story. But it'll be interesting to see what happens here. And the world is watching on this particular one.
Okay.
Right.
Time for a break, 17 after 6. We are live streaming the show already. SpiceFM KE on Facebook and on YouTube. And in addition to being live on SpiceFM around the country, if you're online, say hello. We'll be saying hello to you shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the
Cloudy
only
conditions
way
in
to
Nairobi. The nights are getting longer. Highs of 24 and lows of 15. It's clear at 13 in Nakuru City. Highs of 26 and lows of 13. Clear conditions in Nyeri Town. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 13. At 12 degrees, Eldoret is clear. We'll see highs of 24 today. In Mombasa, light rain this morning at 26, highs of 33. And in Malindi, it's partly cloudy at 28. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. We're looking at clear conditions in Kisumu at 20, highs of 30 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega, it's 16 degrees and mostly clear. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 15. Let's look out into Kampala, where it's clear at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18. We're looking at lows of 27 in a very warm Dar es Salaam today, going to highs of 33. Out in Johannesburg, it's raining this morning as well at 15, highs of 24. Lagos is mostly clear at 26. We'll see highs of 33. Clear conditions in Kinshasa at 24. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 32. Out in Beijing, 1 degree, sunny conditions going into early afternoon Friday. Highs of 5 and lows of -7. It's clear in Paris at 4. We'll see highs of 7 and lows of 4. Clear conditions in London at 6, highs of 7 and lows of 6, while it's still Thursday night. There's a winter weather warning at 2 degrees. It's cloudy. We'll see highs of 4 and lows of -1.
It's 20 minutes after 6. Good morning. So we are online and we are live streaming the show.
Okay, a couple of people tuned in this morning. Edwin Washira has some information for you. SpiceFM KE, Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, good morning. Listening to you on 90.9 FM heading to Meru. Eric, the ground is asking for your Bantu name, your clan and sub-clan as they decide your fate. So please, can you arrange yourself?
The ground is Bantu.
The ground wants to know your Bantu name if you have one. If you don't have a Bantu name, it's okay. Tell them the one you have, and then we can see what we can do and how we can help you. Why are you complicating our lives?
So I'm asking, is the ground Bantu or where does the Bantu bit come in?
The assumption is that you have a Bantu name.
Why Bantu and not Kushite?
You want Kushite? Do you have one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, now. Tell us.
See, it's Latif.
Arrange yourself for this election, please. We are not joking. Whatever position that it is.
This ground of yours, Washira, is coming with very many conditionalities. Call it IMF. Who else?
Abdikadir Abdallah is tuned in this morning, and he says he's tuned in from Komarak locked until the end. Peter from the nocturnal city of Mtwapa. Hey, okay.
Ara.
Kube. Good morning to you too. Robert Bogo tuned in from Mombasa, also in that neck of the woods. Beda Asi is tuning from Machakos this morning. We can see all of you. Okay. Yes. Thank you for tuning in this morning, and thank you for joining us. Hey, the words have gotten
Thank you
stuck.
for tuning us. Welcome to Kenya Speak.
Yes, please.
Okay. Today's proverb is a Somali proverb.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was trying to take a step. Where could it be from?
He is a fool who marries an old woman without teeth. Timely, isn't it?
What? Hey.
He is a fool who marries an old woman without teeth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa.
Sawa.
I get it.
You get it?
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, that's why someone will say, Maisha ni yangu. Maisha ni yangu.
Leave me alone.
I will marry who I want, when I want. Don't matter. Okay, so let's look at the newspaper headlines. Remember, you can get access to the Standard online digital edition, www.standardmedia.co.ke. You get to log in there, you create a profile, and you can be accessing premium content. You can also download the Standard app, and you also get access to the Standard e-paper. Yes? Yes. So the headline is... the headline on the Standard and the Nation, similar. Nation, how Uhuru Raila cornered DP Ruto on coalition bill. Standard, why Uhuru Raila bill cuts both ways. So the Standard says, after National Assembly passage, the party's bill now heads to the Senate, where it'll be up for debate next week. Second thing, joint nominations in all elective seats pose big headache to parties. Parties set to miss out on nomination of millions. So it basically is just looking at, okay, so what does this bill mean? And there are very many people who are just hearing there's something about the political parties amendment bill.
Parliament is doing something.
People who are in the Okoa, what is it called? Not Okoa.
Oka.
Not Oka. There's a Azimio.
Even you're confused.
People on the Azimio side want it to go to sail through as it is. Then people on the other side is called who? The 100 billion people.
Oh, UDA.
Yes.
Yeah.
People on the UDA side, they want to shoot it down. People in Oka,
Yeah, just, riding along.
Yeah, they're dancing in between. So it sailed through the National Assembly. What's the import of that? And the Standard has page 4 and 5 tried to break it down. Reporter Moses Nyamori has basically gone through it and looks at the present law and what the new law provides. In terms of, so the new law says you can have a coalition that is a party. Previously, you could register a coalition with the Register of Political Parties within at least 3 months before an election. The new law looks at the timelines for that. There's also the issue of agreement of, coalition agreement, a post-election coalition agreement, and when you can register to the Register of Political Parties. The new law also looks into that, how parties then participate in nominations and elections. There's a lot of confusion, and we'll be bringing in these legislators to come and continue explaining to us what exactly this whole bill is all about. Because, for example, one issue is, if we say, let's look at the previous coalitions that we've had. The current coalition that we have in Parliament is the NASA coalition.
Yes.
Brings together ODM, ANC, Wiper, Ford Kenya. We have members of Parliament in Parliament representing the individual parties. Members of Parliament nominated by ANC and elected on an ANC ticket, Wiper ticket, Ford Kenya ticket, ODM ticket. This new bill talks about parties joining coalitions as corporate members. And then the other thing is some parties then you can actually be elected. NASA is not a party.
No.
So there's nobody in Parliament who is on a NASA ticket.
No.
And the next one, they want to say that you can actually go into Parliament on the ticket of the coalition.
Okay.
Unaelewa?
Apple, yes.
So you are not an ODM member, you are a NASA member of Parliament.
So for the purposes of Parliament, you can use this coalition as a party?
Yes.
Okay. But it's not a party.
There was an amendment that had been proposed by MP Sakwa Bunyasi of Nambale, who had said, let's restrict the issue of somebody going in as a coalition candidate to only the president and the deputy president. So you can have then the presidential candidate of this coalition goes to Parliament on the party, on the ticket of the coalition. And then members can go into Parliament in their individual party tickets. That was shot down. And then I understand MPs were asking, so now, what does that mean? So am I going now to vie as an ODM member in the next, or am I going to vie as an Azimio coalition member? It's not still very clear. Members of Parliament have been asked what they think about this. Say, for example, the chairman of ODM, John Buddy, says, it's after various parties formally join Azimio La Umoja that will agree whether to have joint candidates. Many of us feel we should not have multiple candidates because it will compromise the strength of the coalition party.
Hey.
That hints at going into a constituency and only an Azimio candidate is picked. Okay?
Very possible, yes.
We have seen what happens in party nominations, even in the ODM strongholds, where people have felt that they were not treated well in the nomination exercise and they jumped ship.
Either to become an independent or to another party who was more welcoming, right?
Yes. Now imagine if you're saying that all these parties have joined a coalition and they only go to vie on that ticket of the coalition. So that's just like what Jubilee did in 2017. Fold all your little parties and come and
join this big one.
And be a Jubilee candidate. And it still had fallouts. There was a lot of fallout.
Yeah. There's a lot of mishmash here. There's some very, really ambiguous grey areas in terms of what it means.
Yep.
Moving forward, it really does have to explain. And I dare say that there are members of Parliament, the practitioners then of this, who don't understand.
They don't understand. ODM Political Affairs Director Opio Wandai is quoted in the Standard saying, Things will crystallize as time goes on. New insights will emerge as situations evolve. What does that tell you?
As we go along, we will figure it out. Yeah. Today, if something happens, we'll say, okay, so now what do we do with this?
Okay, no. Clearly, we need to think about something different. By that time, we have an election coming up. This one, it's going to be crazy. It's 6:30, so let's take this break. Take a look at the traffic, and then we look at more headlines in the papers. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
ABSA was very responsive when COVID came about. And one of the things that we worked together on was for them to give us a facility to enable us buy materials in huger volumes than we were buying.
ABSA introduced a product to us known as the Trade Management Online. It's fast and it's safe. ABSA has helped us bring our possibilities to life, hence making us a home of quality.
What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more. Starting Thursday, 18th November on the Standard Digital YouTube and Facebook page. Hosted by Eric Latiff.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Okay, so what does it look like on these Nairobi streets this morning? Langata Road piling up quite some as you get to that roundabout. Feeding off onto Raila Odinga Way, a little bit of traffic at that junction, but not too bad as you get then towards Gong Road. We're looking at action on Jogo Road and going towards Landis, out towards the Kamkunji roundabout. We're going to have that for some time into the CBD. What's happening in other parts of the city? The Southern Bypass looking pretty good. Looking out west, Waiyaki Way, some traffic getting out then towards Westlands Avenue. But after that, not much traffic as you head out then towards Chiromo. Pangani, some traffic there coming in from Muthui Road, but not looking too bad. Some outbound traffic on Limuru Road, and then nothing coming into the city. Could be early pickings, but we're going to have to wait and see what it looks like. For now, it looks like I can get in and out, traversing without too much of an issue. Let's keep an eye on things. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
27 to 7.
94.4
Right.
Spice FM.
A lot going on, eh? We're going to look quickly at this still an education thing. Teachers left to carry school drugs burden. It's carried on page 8 of the Standard this morning. It's still a bone of contention, still an issue for discussion, and something that cannot be ignored or swept under the carpet. All right, let me give you the details of it. Excuse me. The page has refused to turn on. Okay, here we go. The fight against substance abuse in schools is facing serious headwinds as it emerged that the government may have left the burden to teachers. Parents, most of whom have lost control of their children, are caught in the middle with school managers running the show. And without proper direction and guidance on management of substance abuse amongst children, secondary school heads have adopted the herd mentality, implementing haphazard methods they deem appropriate. The government is now in a spot for looking the other way, as school heads violate provisions of a strategy document on drugs and substance abuse released last year. So, This came out some time ago. It is now emerging that the mandatory tests being conducted in schools and and supported by senior Ministry of Education officials go against the government document unveiled last year. The document, titled National Guidelines for Alcohol and Substance Use Prevention and Management in Basic Education Institutions, was released by Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i was represented by his Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho during the launch of the guidelines at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. A host of officials from the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, and top Education Ministry officials were in attendance. Released in July last year, the document spelled out 7 key strategy points to curb and manage the vice in schools. So this, they knew a while ago, was an issue. So right now, as we're talking about it and everybody seems to be jumping about, it is not a new matter. And they had already said it's serious enough for us to have to do something about it.
And come up with a guideline.
And come up with a guideline and strategies for that. You know, in the strategy, school managers are required to uphold confidentiality of learners found to be abusing drugs within the school and to set up to avoid stigma and discrimination. It also says that the punishment meted out to the children found of drug abuse must be corrective and not punitive, and the method and form of any interventions must be age appropriate. Also, in the 34-page document is a requirement that all interventions must be based on scientific evidence and their implementations monitored and evaluated. NACADA has recently distanced itself from the drug test, saying there is no law in the country making drug testing mandatory for learners. And they're advising, according to Victor Okiama, who is the Chief Executive Officer, we advise that even when conducted, drug testing must be part of a comprehensive intervention program and thus should not be used as a sole solution to the problem of alcohol and substance abuse.
Okay, so there are guidelines and they talk about, what to do.
Yes.
Make sure, first of all, you maintain the confidentiality of a student who tests positive and don't go into punitive, go into corrective measures, blah, 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 blah. That is with the Ministry of Education.
They have it, yes.
It was launched by the Cabinet Secretary for Education.
Yes.
And jointly with the Ministry of Interior. Do the schools know about that?
That is the problem. And remember what I was telling you yesterday? I said I would be very surprised that the ministry, if they're not planning on something, or if they had not planned on something, and the only thing is that we've not actually seen the release of such a thing, but it's been said right here. It was released in July last year. In terms of its implementation around the country, how far has it actually gone? Have you heard about it? Because now people are in the country acting as though this drug testing is a shock. And there is a national guideline that had been released a year ago on how to deal with this. So they knew it was an issue.
Yep. They talk about it and they acknowledge that testing will need to be done.
Yes. Then in terms of its implementation?
No, the implementation stage, the use and the rollout of the guidelines is... Because this provided an opportunity. By the time they were launching it in July, then they must have said, okay, so this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
Let's roll it out. Let's look at I'm sure the Ministry of Education already has information on which schools are affected by rampant drug use.
Definitely.
And substance abuse.
But doesn't it irk you just a little bit to realize that there was something as detailed as this that had been... stakeholders sat down, not one day, over time, sat down, came up with this strategy, but then you didn't hear a thing about it until now. One school has said they will do drug testing, and then everybody is up in arms. And then now we hear, there was a strategy and that there are guidelines. For real. Okay.
Something that is more irking is this story that I'm going to read for you. Page 11 of The Nation. Agony as cancer machines are disabled at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The main radiotherapy machine at KNH in Nairobi has been disabled for a month, leaving thousands of patients to their own devices. Many cancer patients prefer KNH because services there are cheaper compared to private hospitals. That is point number one. Point number two is that KNH is the only public facility that has radiotherapy machines. Okay? All the others are private facilities. How much does it cost you to get radiotherapy per session? At KNH, 500 shillings. At private facilities, between 5,000 and 10,000 shillings per session. Patients usually have many sessions of radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Many have died in the queues in the past, while others slept on corridors waiting for treatment. The main barriers to treatment in Nairobi include accommodation and transport. So the Nation tells us the story of this particular one woman called Miss Susan Situma, who says that she traveled from far. I was due for radiotherapy in December, but I traveled to Nairobi yesterday because I was still looking for money. I was told that the machine had broken down when I arrived. Out of town, did not have the money. And this is, we are talking about at 500 per session. And well, she requires a number of sessions. And so when she got the money, she came. She arrives and she's told, Hakuna machine.
Good Lord.
She says, I cannot afford treatment at a private hospital. KNH is my only hope. I'm sure this happened because the machine is overwhelmed. I'll not go back home until it's repaired. So where will she be as she waits for it to be repaired?
Where is she supposed to go? Because I'm assuming home is not Nairobi.
It's not Nairobi.
Yeah.
She's from out of town.
Where is she supposed to go?
So in the meantime, she either has to look for a friend to accommodate her, a relative to accommodate her, or she'll have to pay for hostels. There are very many hostels that have come up in the area around KNH that are catering for people such as Miss Situma, where you go and find somebody has opened up their private home and they basically make it like some sort of a hospice. Come stay here as you wait, as you undergo treatment at KNH. Because people come all the way and they have sessions. You're booked for a session today, another session the day after tomorrow, another session like that. You can't keep going back and forth to your home. You stay somewhere close. That's an added cost.
Is there any look, Eric, she probably is not the only one. This story has been highlighted. There are thousands of people who travel across the country to come to KNH because they've seen that it is cheaper. One, they come, they do their sessions, they go back. They come. It's cheaper for them to travel, come have it done, than you can imagine spending the transport money and all of this. Having it done is cheaper than to go for one session at a private facility.
Yep.
So they've taken this option.
Yep.
Is there any news about perhaps the repair of the machine? Is there any announcement from the hospital?
So let me continue reading the story.
Okay.
There's a nurse who's been quoted here. She does not want to be named, of course, because she's not authorized to speak. She says, the machines work without stopping. Close to 200 patients on radiotherapy and about 150 on chemotherapy are attended to every day. More than 200 new cases are received every day. More than 3,000 new cancer patients begin treatment at the hospital every year. Once a patient begins radiotherapy, one official told the Daily Nation, they must undergo 25 sessions continuously. The radiotherapy is usually on weekdays. If we attend to more than 200 patients daily and each requires 25 sessions, the machines can never rest. The demand for the service is very high, and this is why this machine must be repaired. One of the machines at the treatment center has been in use for 30 years and needs frequent repairs. The Cobalt machine is normally serviced by the manufacturer from India, but there have been travel restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Measures are underway to service it. This is a KNH official. Universal healthcare, universal health coverage, 2022.
These are the issues that we're dealing with. 2022 is when we're going to see universal healthcare, according to the announcement from the president, is when we're going to see UHC rolled out, and not just rolled out properly, but running properly, as in by the end of this year.
UHC
we would
will
have gone
be
very, very far. And then your one level 6 referral hospital at a place where you have, at the time where you have very many people suffering from this disease of cancer, need this particular medication, treatment. The machine is not working.
Machine
in the same
not
year,
working.
when you said UHC will be on the
On the
ground.
issue of KNH being the only one with radiotherapy machine, though, I don't know. I
I
thought
don't know
we
if
had
that's
we
true.
had
In
more.
public hospital.
Yeah, we had more cancer centers established, especially at the county referral hospitals.
I wonder why. Because Machakos
Kenyatta
doesn't have,
Teaching and Referral Hospital,
yeah,
Moi Teaching and Referral
rural
Hospital.
Machakos. Machakos doesn't have.
I don't know. Well, the story.
I think I'd
is-
like to really find
But
out. If
but you
this
can
is the
hear
only
if
one.
if you're talking about 200 new cases going to KNH on a daily basis,
They've
it
not
tells you
up to date
about
anywhere
something.
else.
It tells you about something that even if there are in other areas, they are not as efficient.
Yeah.
There'll be very many handicaps. Let's take a break. It's 6:45, and we wish all the best to all the patients who basically need this life-saving treatment, and the machines are broken down. Very, very sad. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right.
Mornings.
All right. Despite all fears, all is set for the junior secondary rollout. Still on matters education. You know, there are jitters right now in terms of who's going where, how are we going to be able to do this. We have 2 sets of exams this year because you understand we're in the 3rd term of the current academic year.
Yep.
So there's going to be an exam in March, KCPE and KCSC. Then in December, because that's when we would have finished now the next term. So we're going into a new term come April. And then by the end of those 9 months, yet another set of exams would have been sat. KCP, KCSC again, right? So if they're saying, okay, there are 2 sets of exams this year, how are we going to come around it? Then we're going into new enrollment. Well, it's okay, according to the KICD. Preparations for the transition to junior secondary school in January next year. So next year is the year where things are going to go back to normal. They're in top gear despite concerns by some stakeholders about the rollout of the CBC. Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and publishers are preparing learning and teaching materials for grade 7 because now that will be the pioneer class at that level of junior secondary, right? The writing started late last year following the release of the curriculum designs for junior secondary. Learners currently in grade 5 will be the first cohort to join junior secondary school next year. Learners and teachers' books will be submitted for evaluation in March, according to KICD boss Professor Charles Ongondo. The curriculum designs for grade 8 and 9 are also ready. We're in the process of adapting the designs for special needs education. After evaluating grade 7, we'll be calling for books for grade 8. He said, adding, the curriculum designs will be uploaded in May to give publishers ample time to produce the books. You know what I've just realized, even as I read this stuff and see, KICD is one organized set of folks. In terms of developing a curriculum, in terms of knowing how it ought to be rolled out, in terms of timelines, the issue is never really with them. They've got their ducks in a row. They understand what it is that they need to do.
The planners plan well.
Very well.
The implementers are where the
Different
issues
story.
come in.
Different story. But these guys have got it right. So if you speak to them, they know very well. So now they're saying, in terms of the rollout of the curriculum, don't worry. We know we've already started printing. We've already started printing for January 2023. We know exactly what we're supposed to be doing now in terms of what the rest of you do for infrastructure. Don't know.
Yeah.
But we are good.
We will get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So KICD is telling you right now in this story, basically, our part in terms of what your learners will be learning, the actual content that they will be consuming, we're good. So don't worry about it. The transition now to how it will be, especially now for the junior secondary, we know, don't worry, we're all right. Grade 7 is junior secondary level 1. Come January 2023, we'll be all right. So don't worry. So there's some encouragement for you education-wise this morning.
Okay. It's a good thing.
Indeed.
The editorial cartoon today in the Nation has a photo of somebody who looks like somebody who could be President Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay. Image, right? And some power lines. And the person is saying, power costs will come down. Eventually. Eventually is in very small print. Power costs will come down. Eventually. Now, something else that's interesting is there's a full 2-page advert in the paper placed by somebody called Agnes Kagure, who is gunning for the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. Hashtag tuinue mtaa tujenge Nairobi. And she has a pledge to Nairobians. Now we'll be talking about running counties in the next hour. Number 1 pledge, minding the environment, revamping water supply, better sanitation and healthcare for all. In 2, improving safety and security throughout Nairobi. 3, expanding manufacturing and entrepreneurship opportunities. 4, reorganizing public transport to ease movement. 5, creating 200,000 new jobs annually for 5 years. That's 1 million jobs in 5 years. Okay. And Agnes Kagure says, transforming Nairobi calls for a more innovative roadmap informed by the desire to transform both the people of Nairobi and their circumstances. This quest should be driven by a solid commitment to deliver better services to Nairobians for the good of all. Why? So the Nairobi gubernatorial race is hotting up. We have this, Agnes Kagure, we have Tim Wanyonyi, we have Johnson Sakaja, we have Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. We've got businessman Gatia of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Who else? Please.
You don't just keep telling us. Tell us who
else. In Kiambu, 8 are seeking to unseat Nyoro. 8 people. 1, William Kabogo, the former governor. 2, Ferdinand Waititu, former governor. This is just Kiambu that has had
former governors.
2 former governors
are running.
3, Senator Kimani Wamatangi. 4, Speaker of the County Assembly, Stephen Disho. 5, Dr. Juliet Kimemia. 6, Miss Mwendega Tabaki. This is Dr. David Ndi's wife. All of them want to unseat the governor. Moto sana.
I'm telling you, the times ahead are going to be very, very interesting in terms of who's able to do what. I like the mix, though, I must be honest, because you have former governors, you have former contenders, you have fresh blood, and this is across board.
You have senator, you have a county assembly speaker, you've got people who basically know, they understand the county. All righty.
So, there's some folks who are demanding justice for the torture and murder of their kin. A family in Kericho County is demanding justice after police officers allegedly tortured their relative to death and seriously injured another one over accusations of theft of beehives. 2 officers who are cousins, one is a bodyguard to a top politician in the county, have been accused of taking part in the murder. The beehives were allegedly stolen from the home of the politician's bodyguard. The incident occurred on Monday afternoon at the boundary of Chemugusu and Mwangyen villages near Brook Trading Center in Ainamoy constituency. It is alleged that the 2 officers hunted down Leonard Kipyegon Ngeno and Emmanuel Kiprotich, who are also cousins and neighbors of the 2 officers over the alleged theft. Are you a bit confused? Yes.
Yeah.
Ngene was picked up at Brook while Kiprotich was arrested at a construction site at Brook Day Secondary School. So 2 cousins arrested, okay? Mr. Stanley Koech, who happens to be Kiprotich's father, said, this is what he said. It is also alleged that the officers went to school at around 2 and asked Kiprotich to accompany them. They grabbed him and bundled him into a waiting car where he had found his cousin, Ngeno. This according to now their aunt. She said the officers drove off and 3 hours later, villagers found the 2 young men had been tortured in a bush near the river. Unfortunately, Ngeno died before he could be taken to hospital. Officers from Chagyak police station took charge of the scene, and it took them and villagers about an hour to find Kiprotich, who had staggered to the river. He had been asking about Ngeno's health, as he had also suffered serious injuries at the hands of the police officers. The thing is, why were they tortured in this manner?
Who's the perpetrator?
The 2 police officers.
And are they acting as police officers in this particular case, or are they acting as rogue police officers?
No, they're officers.
Aye.
And interestingly enough, the two officers who apparently arrested them are also related to each other. So now family is saying what exactly happened.
Yeah, answers need to be
They allegedly
given.
stole beehives. Was it necessary for them then to be punished and tortured in this manner
Aye.
that led to the death of one of them?
Aye. Some other disturbing news comes out of Meru. Okay, on Wednesday night, at least 7 people were killed over grazing land conflict in Tigania East. Raiders who were armed with guns and other weapons went on a shooting spree in Mweronkoro, Lokichi, Matabithi, and Johanna villages in the semi-arid area where large chunks of land are yet to be adjudicated and titled. This is Meru. We have a similar case in Lamu. Same thing. Land about to be adjudicated, and people are preparing to take advantage of that by killing others. The attackers from the neighboring county were angered after residents on the Meru side protested after the former refused to drive out their livestock. Yesterday, when County Commissioner Karuku Ngumo and Tigania East OCOD Peter Karanja led a large security operation in the area near the border, bereaved families and residents wailed for the dead. They say during dry seasons, herders bring large herds of camels and other livestock into grazing land and farms. It's raining now, and the locals have planted and wanted the herders to drive their camels out. But as to leave, the herders refused to drive their livestock out, and the residents decided to take matters into their own hands and forcefully removed the camels out of the area. The herders returned with a vengeance and shot dead the victims in different places. 2 were shot dead at Lokichi, others at Matabithi and Johanna. According to a man called Charles Kamaibwa, 8 more people from local community remain missing. Locals fear the worst. The whole issue of grazing lands, land, which who owns this land is not clear. It ends up in this issue. Very sad. On the same page that we have this story, there is a story of a blood shortage in the city after students went on holiday. And the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Services has begun a 3-day blood donation exercise in Nairobi following a shortage recorded after the December holidays. Festus Koech, the KNBTS regional manager, says the exercise is targeting major blood donors to compensate for a shortage that was recorded during the December holiday period. He says, I'm happy the donors are streaming in for the exercise, and I hope we'll collect enough units to bridge the shortage. He said his team is optimistic they'll collect up to 500 units of blood by the end of this exercise, noting the shortage was experienced because universities and colleges had closed for the holidays. That's usually the captive area for blood donations. Students. We normally rely on students, mostly in colleges and universities. All of them closed for holidays, so we don't have a lot of places to visit to collect blood. This exercise runs from today until Saturday outside the Kenya National Archives in the city centre and at the KNH. So please,
come out if you
come
can.
out. Go to KNH, go to the National Archives in the city centre, donate blood.
It's about time we found out exactly what the situation is with blood donations and the blood banks that had that huge debacle just about a year and a half ago, and see what exactly is going on. It was not good. And now that we see these calls for donations, it would be interesting to see and know what the status is of blood storage in the country now.
It seems to have normalized somewhat because they say they've been receiving the donations from the students, and so they have storage. The issue is the entire chain well sorted? From blood donation to screening to distribution. Because every single day you will see a call for blood. A patient admitted at certain hospital requires blood, or somebody who's about to go for an operation and the family are told, now what you guys need to do is you need to donate blood before we can get into an operation. And you wonder, what's the connection between the two? This patient needs to go into theater, and the family is being told, you first need to go and donate blood. It's not the blood that's... My blood will not go into this patient.
It won't. It's so that they can get what is available, and now when you're donating that, they now replace what they've taken. Or what they will take.
Yeah. Yeah, but they make it sound like, unless you donate blood, this person will not go into theater.
Yeah, they make it seem that way.
Yeah.
They make it seem that way.
So keep it right here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The government has announced plans to launch an operation to seize illegal possession of firearms in Elgeyo Marakwet and Baringa counties following the insecurity in those counties. The operation is being carried out following the killing of 4 people on the borders of Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet on New Year's Day. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i said the operation is aimed at ensuring security and allowing students to return to school, as some schools remained closed despite resumption of learning on January 4th, a statement also supported by North Rift County Coordinator George Natembea.
We are mulling over the possibility of beginning a very active disarmament exercise in North Rift, in areas of Kerio next to Baringo, West Pokot, where some activities that are going on, which we think are being inspired by the season that we find ourselves in.
But there's no compromise on that one. Because shule, watoto wanafanya mtihani in March. How can they be sitting at home? Tuweke askari kata kama ni kuchunga shule sichungwe, watoto waende wapi?
Natembea also said that the government will not tolerate illegal possession of firearms as it is a threat to public safety.
Na wakati hiyo disarmament itaanza ndio kutakuwa na kilio, because that's what we've been avoiding. Kwa sababu mtu aikwamilia bunduki na unajua uko nayo, is against the law. Utakuja askari akuja kwako na anajua mbeba bunduki. You are armed and dangerous. Atakuhandle livo.
West Pokot regional leaders, including Governor John Lonyangapuo and Senator Samuel Pogijo, are now urging the government to send police reservists to strengthen security. Now, Beijing will soon appoint a special envoy for the Horn of Africa. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, during his visit to Kenya, made the revelation as the U.S. envoy to the Horn of Africa heads to Ethiopia, which has been struggling with over a year of war. The region has also seen setbacks from a coup in Sudan and an election standoff in Somalia. The visiting Chinese top diplomat said his country will appoint a special envoy to lead the peace process in the Horn of Africa. Wang said his country will support the people of Horn of Africa in finding peace. Still, at the coastal city of Mombasa, and President Uhuru Kenyatta is optimistic that the new offshore jetty will save the country in excess of 2 billion shillings annually in demurrage costs incurred by all shippers, thereby contributing to a significant reduction in fuel pump prices. The construction of the 770-meter-long jetty, currently at 96% complete, is wholly funded by the Kenya Ports Authority and implemented by China Communications Construction Company. When complete in April this year, the offshore facility will be able to load and offload very large sea tankers of up to 200,000 DWT, carrying all categories of petroleum products, including crude oil, white oils, and LPG. He said the new jetty will enhance supply and ensure price stability of petroleum products in Kenya and the region by replacing the 50-year-old onshore Kipevu oil terminal. Now, Deputy President William Ruto has once again declared his opposition to the political party's amendment bill, accusing the opponents of pushing what he termed as a tribal agenda. Speaking in Vihiga County as his campaign tour of Western Kenya entered its 4th day, the Deputy President again waded into the debate on reported coalition talks with Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula, imploring area residents to allow him to engage the two. Commenting on the setbacks suffered by his allies in the National Assembly, the DP accused the proponents of the political party's bill of being tribal. Now, Laikipia Governor Nderitu Muriithi has acknowledged his appointment as chairperson of the Raila Odinga 2022 campaign board ahead of the August general election. Governor Muriithi, however, pointed out that his appointment to Odinga's campaign team would not deter him from defending his seat, which he will be contesting on a PNU ticket. The governor said his support for Raila Odinga should not be misconstrued to mean that he had joined ODM, but observed that the former Prime Minister will be vying for the presidency as a coalition partner. In Kirinyaga County, woman representative Anne Girishi has underscored that the Mount Kenya region will play a huge role in determining the country's next president come the August late general election. According to Girishi, the large number of registered voters in the region will greatly augment any contestant's aspirations to clinch the presidency seat. The Kirinyaga County gubernatorial aspirant similarly hinted that the region was capable of providing a running mate for any of the two presidential frontrunners, Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga, should the region's leaders play their cards right and form a coalition that can sway the presidential hopefuls. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, the Kamkunji roundabout giving folks headaches since 6:01 today. It's been quite messy. We're also looking at Mombasa Road piling up quite some from the Way Bridge, but it's not too bad actually. It's free flow of traffic then past the SGR out towards General Motors. Wilson Airport is where there's a clog up there on Langata Road, and Jogo Road doing its thing. Wayaki Way quite packed, moving very, very slowly out from James Gishuru and then connecting there from Muga and then out into Chiromo. That's moving kind of slowly this morning. Pangani, just there past Muthaiga and then going towards Fairview Road. Juja Road, also a little bit of traffic here and there. So pockets of traffic everywhere you look this morning. How about we do this? You let us know where you might be stuck, or let us know where you find a good route to use this morning, and then we'll share. And then we'll have a happy Friday. And then, we won't be stuck in traffic. Good plan, yes? And how can you do that? SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
It's
day.
8 after 7 on the 7th day of January 2022. First week of the year gone. Just like that. Are you ready for the other 51? Balozi Eric Major says Seragaya Likuyani Kakamega County is already locked. Karibu sana Balozi and everybody else who also joins us this morning, including Kairi Massive in Gatundu, I think Gatundu North, Wamboi, Muirori. Kipitar says, here's an African proverb, birds sing not because they have answers, but because they have songs. Birds sing not because they have answers. No. It's because they have songs. A Somali proverb for the day. He is a fool who marries an old woman without teeth. He is a fool who marries an old woman without teeth. Is the issue here the old woman or the lack of teeth?
It could be both. that if she's old, you want her to have teeth.
What are the advantages of marrying a woman without teeth?
I don't know.
What are the
That maybe
advantages
her
of marrying a
beauty
woman with teeth?
That maybe her beauty is upheld because everything then stands up, because they do give shape to the mouth, right? Your whole mandible.
You know, I think the focus here mainly, I think, is not on the teeth. The teeth is to emphasize how old this woman is.
Yeah.
It is the fact that you're marrying an old person, an old woman. You're a fool. Think about it. Why? What is associated with marriage in many communities?
Childbirth.
Marriage, childbirth. Old is equals?
No children.
No children. So that means you're marrying an old person, that the likelihood of you getting offspring, of you continuing your name,
It's decreased.
is decreased.
Sure.
So you're a fool if you marry an old woman, so old that she has no teeth. Okay. The president was in Mombasa yesterday, and let's talk about it, because when the American Secretary of State visits a country, remember when the Secretary of State visited Kenya?
Yes.
A whole big kerfuffle and big issues and big news, occupying all headlines. The equivalent of America's U.S. Secretary of State from China is in the country. The Chinese Foreign Affairs Minister Wang Yi has been in the country, and he's on an Africa-wide tour.
Yes.
He landed in Mombasa and he had a function with the president at the Kipevu oil terminal in Mombasa yesterday. It's a big project that has been constructed by the government, working with the Chinese government. It's a 40 billion shilling facility with 4 berths, consisting of one offshore inland terminal with 4 berths, which can be used to offload product from 4 vessels at the same time. Currently, petroleum products we have a single berth which can only deal with 1 vessel at a time. Now, this new one can deal with 4 vessels at the same time. A current one is a 58-year-old terminal. It's called KOT, the Kipevu Oil Terminal. And this new one then is going to make greater efficiency, increase efficiency in the operations of this. And the president says, you see, because of this, because of having more ships being offloaded at the same time, it means that then Kipevu becomes the preferred position for all inland oil needs in the region. All petroleum needs that go into Uganda, into Rwanda, into DRC, into Southern Sudan, into all those countries, then now we're able to service them better.
Yes.
Which means that we make more money. KPA expects the new facility, which has multiple berths, to ease the importation of petroleum products by bringing down the time wasted by vessels waiting to discharge at the old terminal that has only 1 discharge point. Remember, there's a conversation that we were having around the price of petroleum was on demurrage, and this is how long a ship takes
to offload,
waiting to offload, and all that. The ship owner just charges the importer. The importer transfers that to the consumer.
Yes.
Now that is going to be reduced because ships come and turn around is much faster.
Yeah.
How the new oil terminal looks like: the terminal is offshore, a man-made island of sorts, and is located opposite the old facility. It has been built at a cost of 40 billion shillings. 4 berths, meaning the 4 ships can use it at the same time. This is in contrast to the old terminal, where only 1 could offload petroleum products. According to KPA, the terminal will initially accommodate 3 ships at the same time. The 4th berth will in future be fitted with facilities that will be commensurate with demand. Other than that, the traditional petroleum products of kerosene, diesel and super petrol, the terminal has been fitted with a facility to allow for the discharge of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, a first for a government-owned facility, with cooking gas currently handled by privately owned terminals. LPG terminal is expected to play a part in managing consumer prices for gas, as well as increase its usage. KPA explains that the new terminal is served by 5 subsea pipelines, which are buried 26 meters under the seabed to allow for future dredging of the channel without interfering with the pipes. So it's a big thing. This one, it's a big thing, and it'll have huge impact on that. At the same time, China has given Kenya a 51 billion shillings grant on the same day it signed 6 bilateral agreements to facilitate trade between the two countries. However, the Chinese Foreign Affairs Minister Wang Yi did not state how the grant is to be used. Kenya's Foreign Affairs Minister Rachel Omamo, who spoke at yesterday's signing ceremony, said tea and avocado farmers will be the biggest beneficiaries as they'll be allowed to export their produce to China. I thought this already happened.
Right.
In November, the government suspended export of avocado following complaints that some unscrupulous business people were exporting immature avocado. Addressing the press after the signing of the 6 deals, Omamo termed the move as a testimony of commitment by the two nations to foster bilateral relations. We also signed an MOU on the establishment of a working group that will look into issues of tariffs and non-tariff barriers to fast-track increase in exports from Kenya to China.
Okay. Do you see what's happening here? In case you had forgotten, or maybe you thought that maybe it was just a few powerful stabs in the beginning of this bilateral relationship, and then maybe the potency of China's influence then had waned. It's a reminder that, look, China is still looking for development partners in Africa, and that still remains top of their foreign policy agenda.
Yep.
And they're not letting down on it at all. And so where there is a willing taker, they're going to go full throttle. Grants, business opportunities, opening up of trade barriers, this, that, the other thing. In as much as, yes, you're looking for a reciprocal business partner, but at the same time, in terms of your domination as a world power, you can be sure that China's resolve has not let down at all. And if they're doing it with Kenya, they're doing it with other countries as well.
Yep.
So it's the thing of, if you guys thought that this was child's play for us, it isn't.
We're serious
about this thing. And what do we need to do to get us there? We're going to do it. In our backyard, we've sorted out our issues. Now here we are going for the globe. So where other countries may refuse to be your development or business partner or your loan partner or your grant partner, hey, we're open for business.
We are open for business. China needs raw material.
Yep.
And looking at the resource-rich Africa, and it's one of them. And
what do you
the
need
way to do that is,
what do you need that
let's
we have?
trade, let's deal.
Yes.
Yeah, all these conversations, I mean, all these stories that have been spread mainly by, Western think tanks using Western media in some ways. China's foray into Africa, is it a detriment to democracy? Is it, bad for human rights? According to whose definition, though?
It'd be very interesting to hear if the people of China across board felt that their human rights are being abrogated or trampled upon.
It's a matter of definitions. So recently there was a whole hue and cry because, for example, Tesla has opened a new production facility in that part of China where we have the Muslim communities.
Yes.
All right. And the government of China has been running some operation there where it is reported by, again, Western media, that up to 1 million people have been held in concentration camps where they are being re-inculcated. Remove that whole thing of your religion and be Chinanized, okay? And so religion is not a big thing. And so the whole big backlash here is that why is Tesla going to set up in such a place where are they basically endorsing the human rights, the gross human rights violations that are taking place in China? Are they sitting there to encourage the Chinese government? And you're not talking about any other American organization that is operating out of China.
No.
Those that are in Beijing are in the same China.
Same China. It's not a different China.
Even Tesla in other parts of China, nobody's talking about it.
We want to talk about big operations, big corporations, sports corporations like Nike and such, who are operating the same sweatshops that we are talking about. We're talking about child labor and things like that. Where are they operating? Biggest operations out of the United States in China. Why? Because they've outsourced cheap labor.
Yep.
So do you speak out of one side of your mouth and then practice with the other?
It's completely, so let me read the story from Reuters, all right? And it's also covered in the Wall Street Journal and others. U.S. human rights and trade groups have blasted Tesla's New Year's Eve announcement that it opened a showroom in Xinjiang. The latest foreign firm caught up in tensions related to the far western Chinese region, where detention camps have drawn heavy criticism. The Council of American Islamic Relations, the largest U.S. Muslim advocacy organization, said Tesla is supporting genocide. Similar criticism has come from a U.S. trade group, the Alliance for American Manufacturing, and U.S. Senator Marco Rubio. Elon Musk must close Tesla's Xinjiang showroom, the Council on American Islamic Relations said on their Twitter account. Xinjiang has become a significant point of conflict between Western governments and China in recent years. UN experts and rights groups estimate that more than 1 million people, mainly the Uyghurs and members of other Muslim minorities, have been detained in camps there. Even US President Joe Biden and members of the US Congress have stepped up pressure on companies to distance themselves from, not China, Xinjiang.
Yeah.
None of them, not Biden, not the Congress, not any of these organizations or rights groups, is talking about American companies stop investing in China.
Why? No, because they also realize that
It
the
is
business
American
and commercial
companies
potential.
don't invest in Xinjiang.
Yeah. No, they look, I don't...
Because the
we can't
government of
run
China is conducting some human rights violations in Xinjiang.
And that's
So don't
the
go
only
to
place we can
Xinjiang.
focus on.
Yeah.
The rest of the places
No,
where we have our business and commercial interests, they're all right. It's okay. Yeah. That's what I'm telling you.
Greatest hypocrisy. Greatest. Whereas in other countries, they basically say, so look at what's happened to Ethiopia, for instance. The US has basically blacklisted Ethiopia as a country from accessing AGOA. And this is accessing the duty-free market through AGOA. Why? Because of what is happening in a part of Ethiopia.
So you throttle the entire country in terms of its trade.
Because of what's happening in a part of Ethiopia, Ethiopia has now been told no more access to American market.
But here you are, because your commercial interests are staggering in the same China, they're staggering.
Yeah.
You're going to say, well, okay, maybe we should send out a warning about a particular region where we see this problem, but for the rest of the country, it's okay. No problem.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Not a big deal. Complete double-sidedness, and you wonder, all right, so what are we talking? What exactly are we talking about here? As we keep talking about all these things, the Rohingya people from Myanmar have no country.
Nope. They're persona non grata
In their own country.
in their own country,
And in the neighboring country.
and they have nowhere to go outside the country. So they hang about, and if they survive the torture or the harassment that comes from law enforcement agencies and such, they live to fight another day. They live to not even fight. They live to exist another day, waiting. And these are some of the things that we've seen people try to fight over the years. And we had the most recent coup or takeover of government that we saw a year ago that caused a lot of operations then within Myanmar to shut down.
Yep.
Neighboring countries. saying,
And why
"No,
is that
thank you."
happening to them? Because they're Muslims.
Exactly.
And they're a minority in a country, okay? But are we hearing all these organizations and so much pressure to stop this? This issue has gone on for very many years. In January 2020, the UN's top court ordered the Buddhist majority country to take measures to protect members of its Rohingya community from genocide. That's all they were told. Take measures to protect the Rohingya community. But the army in Myanmar, which is formerly Burma, has said it's fighting Rohingya militants and denies targeting civilians. The country's leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, once a human rights icon, has repeatedly denied allegations of genocide. She is a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And what has... No, there's no genocide. I mean, there's just a couple of people who've been killed and they're being thrown out of their country. The Rohingya, who number around 1 million in Myanmar at the start of 2017, are one of the many ethnic minorities in that country. The Rohingya Muslims represent the largest percentage of Muslims in Myanmar, with majority living in the Rakhine state. They have their own language and culture and say they are descendants of Arab traders and other groups who've been in the region for generations. But the government of Myanmar, a predominantly Buddhist country, denies the Rohingya citizenship and has even excluded them from the 2014 census, refusing to recognize them as a people. It sees them as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. Since the 70s, Rohingya have migrated across the region in significant numbers. Estimates of their numbers are often much higher than official figures. A Nobel Peace winner has risen to become the leader of the country, and she has also not dealt with that issue. But the world is sitting back. No.
Okay.
But China,
Deal with your issues.
it's politics.
In order for us to
If
do
you look at
business
it, just
with
see
you.
this is politics at play.
It's terrible.
Yep,
It really is.
it is.
Speaking of profits, can we look at something back in the country? As you mentioned, avocados to China and such, and other agricultural issues. Kakuzi is in a profit alert as avocado output slumps. Nairobi Securities Exchange listed agricultural firm Kakuzi has issued a profit warning, indicating that its financial performance from last year will decline by at least 25% compared to 2020. The alert indicates that its profits in 2021 will be the lowest over the last 6 years at below 470 million. Since 2016, the company has made an average of 594 million annually, with the lowest year 2018 having recorded a profit of 481.6 million shillings. Kakuzi board chairman Nicholas Nganga issued the alert as the firm blamed poor yields on its Hass avocados and low prices in its European markets for the waning performance. This profit warning notice arises from trading information, market forecasts, and the preliminary unaudited full-year financial results, among other data sources currently at the board's disposal. They wish to report that their earnings will drop because of this. Many farmers actually then went into avocado farming after the announcement that there was a potential market in Europe.
So when you say avocado output slumped, what are we talking about?
That the farmers then, that essentially your yield had reduced this year.
Because of what do we know?
We don't know. But the assumption is that because of lack of adequate rain, then obviously that you will see a lower crop yield.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, one thing that's for sure is in another, let's say, 10 years, Kenya is already one of the leading exporters of avocado from Africa. Kenya is the 7th largest avocado exporter in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm predicting in 10 to 15 years, we'll be in the top 3 globally, exporters of avocado, because there are so many people who ventured into this large scale. And, you know, many people with very many trees of avocados.
Are waiting for harvest time.
Yes, that are, you know, just under process. So in a couple of years' time, this whole issue of slump in output, we'll be talking about a slump of a very high number in output.
Will not be an issue.
Yeah. And it's some of the good things that we see about, okay, so what happens in, are Kenyans keen on grabbing opportunities? Yes, they are. Are Kenyans keen on seeing, so what's happening around the world? Yes, they are. If you talk to very many people who are now in various associations that are talking about avocado farming and of avocado trade, they have a lot of information. What is the better avocado? Which one is the more preferred in these markets? Which one grows better in these regions? And they're going into production of avocado. So when we have the unscrupulous people who did whatever they did with the now large open market to China, you wonder, the government should not only have said, okay, stop exporting avocado to China, should have cracked down heavily on the people who were spoiling the market by sending, what was it they were sending? Substandard and low quality avocado, right? Because the Chinese government and Kenya, they signed an agreement. The president of Kenya and the president of China, they signed an agreement on let's open up the market for avocado
this is how
from Kenya.
Ought to be.
And this is what we're going to do. We expect it to come chilled at certain temperatures, you know,
certain
for sizes and all, and we expect it to be. This is the quality that we're demanding. So let's just meet that quality.
And just get it that way. We shouldn't have to be in a situation whereby we fall below the standard, because it's predetermined.
It's predetermined, and it's clear.
Why send anything less? It's clear.
How much information are we seeing from the government going to support these farmers? If you went to any farmer who has now avocado, go to any of these counties where you have, even small scale farmers having several avocado trees, do we have sufficient information coming out of the farmers on what they need to do, how they need to protect their crop, how they need to, at what point do you harvest, at what point, how is the transportation going to happen? There are several farmers who have this access to Kakuzi because they're then being subcontracted by Kakuzi. How many others do we have? When we were talking about this the other day, is the government supporting our agricultural sector sufficiently?
Look at it. This is it.
Here again.
Right here. Something needs definitely, we can't, for the potential that it has and what it can do for individual farmers as well as the economy as a whole, it's too big an issue for it to be ignored.
Yeah. We have various. We've had for many years a very well organized agricultural sector. We've talked about this many times. Our cooperative movement is world renowned. People have come to the country to actually study Kenya's cooperative movement. And cooperative movement has worked. Look at, before we take this break, actually, reminds me of this particular tweet here by Governor Kivutha Kibwana of Makueni, who tweeted yesterday at about 8 p.m. a photo and says, "It's mango season in Makueni County, Kalamba Fruit Processing Plant. This is our ripening shed for crop bought from farmers through their cooperatives, awaiting processing for value addition." The government of Makueni basically set up a plant in Makueni, and then they went back into the production areas, into the villages, and said, "Farmers, you guys are organized into cooperatives. Are you? Yes. Okay, let's strengthen your cooperative movement. Those that are not in cooperatives, let's help you create strong cooperative movements. As you're growing your mangoes, as the mango season gets, let's help you. This is the point where you're going to harvest your avocado, your mangoes. This is how the mangoes are going to be picked up from your farms through your cooperatives. They come to the processing. What does that do? It ensures that farmers, we reduce that whole issue we talked about here of post-harvest losses for mangoes, where 80% of mangoes in Ukambani have been going to waste in terms of loss.
And the other things that can be done.
Yeah. It reduces that because of the support the farmers are getting. It reduces the issue of market because the farmers are guaranteed of a market. As they're harvesting their mangoes, they know where the mangoes are going. It also guarantees and stabilizes the prices for these mangoes. They know this is the price that we're going to sell our mango at, because it's not just going into immediate usage. It's going into processing. It's going to be, they're going to produce mango puree and others. They're even exporting mango puree from Makueni County.
Right.
This is empowerment. 28 to 8. Let's take a quick break and take a look at the traffic and then the weather as well. We come back and look at what else is happening in the world. Good morning.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kano, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So, one of the...
The weather with Spice FM.
It's cloudy in Nairobi, a chance of a sprinkle, highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. Mostly sunny conditions at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 13. It's 14 and currently sunny in Nyeri, highs of 24 and lows of 13, while in Eldoret at 13, sunny conditions, highs of 24 and lows of 12. Mombasa raining at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 26, while in Malindi it's mostly sunny at 28. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. Kisumu is sunny at 21. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega, it's sunny at 18, highs of 32 and lows of 15. Kampala, hazy city this morning at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18. While in Dar es Salaam, it's partly sunny at 28. Going to highs of 32, we'll see lows of 27. Joburg, cloudy at 16, highs of 24 and lows of 15. And in Lagos, clear skies at 28 already this morning, highs of 33 and lows of 26. It's mostly cloudy in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24.
Everything nice. All right. Okay. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so quite some traffic this morning on Mombasa Road, and we're heading out into the city, going just after a Mara Daima at that area, and then heading towards General Motors. Quite jam-packed this morning. If you're heading in that direction, Poleni Sana, this one you have to sit through because there's no diversion. Thank you, Kenha. Anyway, let's look at what's happening on Langata Road. Quite packed as well, going towards the roundabout, then connecting with Raila Odinga Way and then into Nairobi West. There's a whole mishmash of stuff happening there. Industrial area quite packed. Kamkunji, my goodness. It's been a whole week of this and it hasn't let up at all. We're also looking at Haile Selassie Avenue. Now, going towards Westlands, coming off of Uhuru Highway, continues to be a thing. In the CBD, we'll probably take a largest hit of traffic this morning. How about we take a look at things on the Thika Superhighway, where it continues to build, going in the direction of Survey. And Kiambu has gotten a bit of a licking this morning as traffic is concerned. Limuru Road, in and outbound traffic is a headache this morning. Parkland's also piling up. Let's take a look in a short while. Let us know what we can do to help in terms of spreading that information. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
23 minutes to 8.
Spice
Our guest, Francis Amisi Frasha, who wants to be the MCA for Athi River Ward in Machakos County, will be joining us at 8 o'clock. Got caught up in that traffic that you just talked about on Mombasa Road, both ways, both sides.
Yes.
It's traffic, this one. But don't worry, by March, the road will be complete.
Okay, sawa.
Yeah. This is what we've been told. And you see, promises are kept in this country. If you don't believe it, shauri yako.
If you don't believe what?
That promises are kept in this country.
Oh, okay.
Shauri yako. Yeah. So there's something that was happening in Mukuru slums. You've heard about that?
I have.
That over the Christmas period, well, there's an issue about dispute over land. Again, same issue, land issue. And then there was some evictions and demolitions that were taking place around Christmas time. So I'm going to read two stories here that tackle it. One, land transactions in Mukuru, Kwanjenga, Nairobi have been halted by President Uhuru Kenyatta. This follows the killing of a man when residents protested the surveying of the land by unknown people on Christmas Day. President Uhuru Kenyatta also ordered the immediate resettlement of families evicted that night. 2 other people sustained gunshot wounds when locals clashed with the police. The activities halted include surveying of the 100-acre land and the eviction of approximately 40,000 people from the property that's also being claimed by a private company. Surveying and everything else will be handled by the government to avoid conflict of interest. That's according to Interior CS Fred Notiangi, who visited Mukuru Kwanjenga and met with the elders and Nyumba Kumi officials. Concerned ministries are required to speed up negotiations with the landowners, community leaders and other concerned parties within a month. The land is also to be surveyed and a census of the displaced families conducted ahead of the resettlement. We want to see displaced families resettled immediately. These instructions are that we cease activities in Mukuru Kwanjenga until all have been resettled. CS Dr. Matiangi said. The Standard story says that 2 senior officers who were involved in the Mukuru land tussle will be held to account. Matiangi is blaming the police for the bungled operation at the Mukuru Kwanjenga slums, where 1 person was shot dead and 2 others injured in an operation on the 27th of December. We have to strike a balance between court orders and the rights of the people. Those officers will be called to account. So those police officers who were involved in this, senior police commanders in Nairobi and a member of the provincial administration who were part of the Mukuru demolition have been sent on forced leave. IG Hilary Mutyambai, however, declined to comment on what action the government intended to take on those 3. It's 100 acres of land in Mukuru. 100 acres. It's a slum.
Yes.
How many people do you think have had their eyes on this particular piece of land?
Oh my goodness. And probably people who've done.
You know, Mukuru is industrial area.
It is. Mm.
Very, very prime. So, who has been living in Mukuru, the various Mukurus, over how long? What kind of political patronage do the landowners there, the house owners have in Mukuru? What kind of politicians and powerful people have an eye and an interest in the land in Mukuru? And how many of them are using the people who are resident of Mukuru?
As leverage?
Yes.
Or as currency?
Yes.
You'd be surprised at the number of people who've, buried a shilling here or there to see how far they can go in terms of ownership of that land. And it looks like just, people living in a slum area. But it is a lot more than that. And that's why you see some of this ugliness that keeps rearing its head over and over again. It's just people serving their selfish interests.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You know the bottom of this, if you've seen these slums existing for so long, it's because most likely they're government land. And then somebody maybe has played some game somewhere and gone to Athi House and where the Athi House games that are being played for very many years and secured a title deed. And you could find this is a 1960s, 70s transaction.
Yeah,
okay?
Very old.
But they've been unable to move the squatters out. Oh, the slum has continued to develop, and now they sold, and somebody else has come in and they have power and they think that they can use the powers that be to evict people. Chose the wrong time, 2020 election year.
Forget it.
Surely.
Forget it.
Even you, Bwana, used a bit of this. Surely.
Use a little bit of this.
Yes. Evicting people in 2022. Nowhere can they be evicted. East African Portland Cement,
who've been here for
a very long time. They have an issue with squatters on their land, all right, in Machakos County. They've been issuing caveat emptor saying, this land belongs to the EAPCC. If you go in and buy a piece of land here, blah, blah, blah. We have very many squatters. We have people who are third generation buyers of these particular pieces of land. And they've started developing them. And the whole issue is EAPCC has been told, you can go and evict the squatters. Who will touch them?
Who will touch them? The person who swooped, you know what? It's almost orchestrated. You go touch them, you evict them. The one who swoops in to save the day is definitely somebody with some kind of political leaning.
Yes.
And that will be the person that will be voted for and put into office.
Oh, yes.
Regardless of where or how or what they're using to run on whatever ticket for whatever position. Because then it just becomes a play among politicians. Okay, so this is the one who caused you harm. And I can see that I have numbers here. I will pull whatever strings that I can, whether it will be money-wise or however influence-wise, I'll use that to get myself in your good books. And who will ever touch those people again?
Nobody. And the other unfortunate bit is that because of these people who have some kind of power and influence, they can see the thousands of acres of Portland land, and they know eventually I want 100 acres here. So you support and sponsor squatters to come and occupy that piece of land, knowing that you will be able to make noise and say, how are you removing people? Where do you want them to go?
Where do you want them to go? They've been here for so long. What's wrong with them?
As they're staying there, they're not occupying your 100 acres. You're doing whatever you want to do with your 100 acres. We have seen this in Embakasi with the proliferation of land sales in Embakasi, and then you look back into, so how was this land subdivided? Very many of them you find people who are former councillors in Nairobi are the ones who are selling pieces of land in Embakasi and other parts of Eastlands Nairobi.
That may not even belong to them.
Markets, open land, it was earmarked for future development of a residential estate. They went and subdivided those pieces of land and sold. And now you cannot touch anybody there. Same thing has happened to very many of these so-called slum areas. There are slum lords who benefit from this.
Indeed. And would not for anything want the development of such an area. Because then you lose out on your control, you lose out on your profits.
Hii Kenya yetu hii. And the government will not, because the government is people. The people in government who know the actual story of what's happening, for example, in Nakuru, what are they going to do? They are going to suspend and punish police officers who are acting on orders.
Yes.
They are going to suspend and punish a national government administration officer who was acting on orders.
Meanwhile, it was the right thing.
Restore peace in this area, quell the violence in the area. Oh, in the middle of all that, somebody died.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
so
trampling on human
you
rights.
are the one then who pays the price. The government will not go back into who is leading the evictions here.
Who is sponsoring?
Who is sponsoring these evictions here? The government will not touch them. The same thing we're not seeing. The government is not going to do anything with Lamu. Don't expect the main perpetrators of the violence in Lamu to be arrested.
Like
no.
Kipia.
Like Kipia, they haven't. We're seeing Matiang'i has talked about, Northeastern. We are going to have a serious operation. It's in the news this morning. We're going to have a serious operation in the North Rift because what's been happening there is completely wrong. I mean, people are just being killed left, right, and center. They're going to do nothing.
They're going to do nothing.
You will not see people being arrested over the actual violence that's taking place
in the country.
In all these parts, people are not going to be arrested. Killing, maiming of cows at shocked Rift Valley. For the last 1 year, more than 14 cows have been killed and the others chopped at Kapchumutu Forest in Elgeyo Marakwet without any trace of the assailants. It's a shocking incident in Soi North where a man was detained at Chepsigot police station in Keyo South for killing 4 cows. That's one. A man has been arrested here because of this and the other. But then the main issues that cause the conflict.
Nobody is looking at it. So the focus here now is that cows have been,
Yep. Is this related to the grander violence that's taking place?
And why
in the
are we
area?
not focusing on those issues? And that's what I keep saying. You don't deal with the root cause. You don't call out the individuals that are involved. You will continue to have these issues. It's been these areas for the longest time. And it will continue to be just so. Until and unless you're ready to actually be, bold enough to stand up and say, we know what is actually happening here and take responsibility for it. But then, of course, it's very difficult for you to do that if you're in bed with the same folks who are perpetrating these things in the first place. You can't do it.
You cannot.
Yeah.
Uhuru Doctrine number 3. Remember, Uhuru has 3 doctrines for 2022. Uhuru Doctrine number 1 is about what? Seek ye first the economic kingdom and not the political kingdom.
No.
Says politics versus development. Doctrine number 1, Uhuru Doctrine. Uhuru Doctrine number 2, the law versus justice. Focus more on justice and not on the little bit of the law here, law there. Focus on the justice, the bigger picture. Uhuru Doctrine number 3, bold decisions. Now, this is where he comes in. if you indeed meant it, Mr. President, take a bold decision and deal with the violence in Laikipia once and for all. Deal with the violence in Elgeyo Marakwet, in West Pokot, in Baringo, once and for all. Deal with the violence in Marsabit and Isiolo, once and for all.
You know who
perpetrates these.
You know who is benefiting from these clashes continuing.
Yes.
You know who they are. If a bold decision, if a doctrine is this by which you then practice, then we should have been hearing some of these names by now. We should have been seeing arrests. Not one single arrest has happened.
Some small-time
Laikipia.
arrests, some small people here arrested, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, let me
Meetings are held
rephrase.
in State
Not
House.
one significant arrest has happened in Laikipia.
Yep.
Hasn't happened. Hasn't happened. And you know very well what's happening. We can see it. So bold decisions as a doctrine, I don't know where would...
It's about bold decisions.
I don't know when it kicks in.
No,
but,
bold decisions are when, it's very subjective. It's when it suits a decision to be bold.
Then we'll make it.
Then we'll make it, especially when we want to make a bold decision that focuses on justice and not on the law.
Okay. I understand.
And this is not about politics, it's about economics.
But I'll tell you when things actually are being done, and maybe now you can make a connection, right?
Yeah.
So 600 GSU officers moved amid terrorism threats.
Yeah.
Right? And the August polls. Moving things around because of the threat of terrorism, and also because we see that elections are coming up. We need security, and it needs to be buffed in certain areas. They've been moved from Nairobi to other parts of the country in the latest transfers approved by the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Edward Bokwa. Details of the transfers of the officers who are in the rank of senior sergeant, and corporal, the latter are in the majority, of course, the corporals, contained in a memo that was released Tuesday. They are expected to report to their new stations with immediate effect. Inform or release them to their new stations on or before January 12th, 2012 without fail, and this has come from Vigilance House. The officers include those from the Wrecker Company and other specialized units of the GSU, will also play a role in preventing terrorism across the country at a time when the nation is on high alert owing to past January attacks and the conflicts happening in neighboring nations like Ethiopia, Mozambique, Somalia and Sudan. The move, termed as normal transfers, happened barely months to the general election slated for August. It also happens barely a month after 6,000 new GSU and administration police officers were absorbed into the National Police Service. The constables will be deployed to man the upcoming elections. So they're saying, you know what, we're starting early with this thing. Elections are coming up in August, so 7 months to the time. Let's just make sure everybody is in place because we don't want any surprises. We've seen previously that major attacks have happened in this country in January, this month of January going to February was... And so we're just making sure that, we have our security sorted out, according to the NPS, of course. The numbers provide a critical surge in capacity and come in handy to help provide more security to citizens, including securing the forthcoming general election, not to mention the campaign period. All right, so keeping things in check from now until then. That was a bold decision.
And it's something that it needs to be done. It's something that's expected to be done. How many officers again moved from Nairobi? 700?
600.
600 police officers.
Yes.
So Nairobi has 600 less police officers.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yes, they do. 600 less.
And these are coming from various units, whether it's GSU,
Wrecker Squad,
and
all of this. Yes.
You mean Nairobi has been having an extra 600 police officers?
I don't know if they've been extra. I think there's something that they've been doing, but then they've looked at it and they said, okay, actually, you know what? We can remove here, and we will not suffer. So then that number came to just under 600. Let's move them to other parts of the country.
So why were they needed in Nairobi in the first place if they're not going to be used in Nairobi for the entire 1 year?
I know, because it looks as though now we're experiencing some duplicity of effort, right? Why?
If Nairobi can do with 600 officers less,
then what were they doing?
Another parts of the country can do with at least 600 more police officers. So why were they here?
Je ne sais pas, monsieur. It's a good question. It must be asked. Or maybe they had something to do, but the threat of terrorism and the need for extra security during the general election and the campaign period made you say, all right, let's squeeze a little bit and move them. Because hiring of new police officers. at
It's
this
a
time
it's a
was not able to-
reorganization.
Yeah. They realized that this is important for us to do.
Okay.
So they may have had a job to do in Nairobi. Maybe there
Yes.
wasn't just people hanging around doing nothing.
So we can optimize. Going forward, we can still look at this reorganization and the impact of it, and optimize the officers and say, all right, stay where you are. Because those areas still, I mean, we talk about areas that don't have adequate number of police officers.
Yeah, but what do we see in Lamu? For example, a significant number of these officers will be moved to the east of the country, and because it's needed. They didn't have it before. With the dusk till dawn curfew, that means you need more boots on the ground in terms of now security, which is being kept in the Lamu area and Peketonia around that area. So you need some extra. Will you keep them there after the situation is quelled? Possibly a good idea to do that. Then what happens to the shortfall that you have?
So several
people are in
police
training
officers-
as we speak.
Police officers, who've been manning, for example, government installations in some areas,
Mm.
maybe you really reduce the number of those officers in those government installations, bring in NYS.
And then the election period, campaign period is not going to last forever. It's
So
gonna
you
be
bring
done
the
sooner
AP
than
to
you think
come
about.
and back and sit at the gate.
I don't know if it's just.
And there's a community somewhere that just keeps talking about we have a spate of insecurity and the number of police officers on patrol is not as high. I mean, I'm questioning. So what happens?
What happens when?
Yeah. You have 600 officers who've been in Nairobi. What have they been doing that they are not going
So
to
much
do?
so that you can remove
That they're not going to
them
do
and then you will not
in a
feel the
campaign
impact.
period in Nairobi. This is the most populous county. And you're moving officers from here.
It's a question.
Threats of insecurity, threats of terrorism, they're high here as well. If you can remove them from Nairobi and take them elsewhere. So what were they doing?
What were they doing? If their loss will not be felt at such a great impact, then you must ask what was going on while they were
If you
here.
had so many Reka police officers, so what were they doing? Were they, like sitting in the barracks, their quarters, just waiting,
Now you've called them out.
training in Ruiru all the time, just going to the shooting range every morning?
It's a valid question. It really is.
Okay. But it's a good thing to talk about securing the country.
If I can quickly just tell you, though,
Yeah.
that what it is, the strategy that they do have is that the officers will also play a key role in preventing terrorism across the country at a time when the nation is on high alert. The move, as we said, termed as normal transfers. And it's barely months to the general election. These are the points that they're sticking to. And it happens barely a month after 6,000 new GSU and AP police officers were absorbed into the National Police Service. So ongoing, it's normal. But we're in an election year and we're at high alert in some parts of the country as concerns terrorism. So it was a move. But the question still remains pertinent that if you can move them in such high numbers, then what were they doing? Or were they on a wait for assignment? That's another question.
Residents of Kajiado are completely unhappy. National road agencies and the Kajiado government have been put on the spot for ignoring a section of the old Namanga Road that ought to serve the populous Kitengela town as a bypass to ease traffic congestion. A stretch of 10 kilometers that forms the old Namanga Road has been marred by controversy over which entity it falls under. Meanwhile, residents continue to undergo untold suffering. In the late 70s and 80s, the stretch, which was part of the current Namanga Highway, was under the Kenya National Highways Authority. But when the section was rerouted, it was passed to the Kenya Rural Roads Authority. After the inception of the devolved units in 2013, the Kajiado government is said to have taken over the road from Kera, prompting its reclassification. However, Kera still does routine maintenance. Kera engineers say they intervene on humanitarian grounds. But locals want it tarmacked as a long-term solution, saying Maram does not last. On November 23rd, 2018, the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, Kura, Director General Silas Kinoti visited the road, accompanied by Kajiado Roads Executive Alex Kilowua, and promised that it would be tarmacked. Since then, residents have remained optimistic, but nothing. So we've had Kenha handed it over to Kera. Kera has been coming on humanitarian grounds. County government has been acting as a human. Then now in 2018, Kura came and they said something. Meanwhile, the residents of Kitengela, they don't know. They just know there is Maram and this road is supposed to be helping us. We have absolutely no clue. Kenha, Kera, Kura.
All of you.
Same was up.
Telling you,
Same.
madness.
Same.
Things that should be happening, you have to ask the question. Road that should have been finished has not been finished. It's like saying a doctor was supposed to be seeing patients on a regular basis. You administer treatment. If you can't save this one, we move. You administer treatment. This one gets better. We move on to the next. It has not been happening. You still have a boatload of patients outside your door. So you have to ask the question, what were you doing?
No, this one is supposed to be handled by a clinical officer. Clinical officer says, no,
Even
this is
clinical
a senior
officer
nurse.
has- even
the senior
nurse.
nurse comes and says, but me, I'm only coming to help, in managing the wounds.
Lab technician also says the same thing. Meanwhile,
Patient.
still outside the door.
Yep.
Some dying. Respiratory problems, cannot breathe. And you people are here arguing over who is supposed to do what and whose mandate has it been. But in the meantime, let me just try and help you. Then even the help that you're supposedly administering is not even helping.
That's what we said, the malaise that we have. When at least they come, when the Kura or Kera boss comes and says, okay, so let's bring in some machinery next week. People are like, hey, at least. Vumbi mepungua.
Meanwhile, the road is still where? Under dust.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in from wherever you are on SpiceFM or SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. Our guest in the next hour is going to be Francis Amisi, a man who wants to be the next MCA for Athi River in Machakos County. Francis Amisi is also known as Frasha, a musician, physiotherapist, and somebody who's been in the political campaigns for quite a while. Keep it right here for that conversation. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Assetti. The National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, has denounced the directive by Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha requiring high school students to undergo a mandatory drug test. In a statement, the authority criticized the exercise as illegal and further clarified that NACADA is not involved in any drug testing. NACADA instead urging school administrations to use an evidence-based approach in dealing with alcohol and drug abuse among students. Now, 2.8 million people are in need of food aid in the country. This is an increase from 2.1 million people who were in need between August to December last year. Officials said this has been worsened by low levels of rainfall witnessed last year. In its 2021 report, the Authority on Drought Management said that the situation could worsen in the next few months, which will have a significant impact on agriculture, livestock farming and nutrition. 1,437,632 animals in 15 counties died last year due to drought. The worst-affected counties are Garissa, Mandera, Marsabit, Isiolo and Wajir. A security operation is underway in Tigania East near the Meru-Isiolo border after 6 people were killed by raiders on Wednesday. According to police spokesperson Bruno Shioso, there were about 4 raiders who were shooting people indiscriminately during the attack. The last attack in the region was in November 2020, where 12 security officers were injured as they pursued cattle rustlers in Igembe North. Prior to that, a person was killed while another was injured when 30 armed bandits raided in Tangilia village. Following the incident, area residents began fleeing, citing fears of possible subsequent attacks. Some 590 senior police officers have been redeployed as general duty officers to various police stations in new changes announced by the National Police Service. The officers drawn from the Elite General Service Unit were assigned general duties in a move the police service said was aimed at enhancing security across the country 8 months to the general election. According to a memo dated January 4th, the officers affected include senior sergeants, sergeant corporals and constables. The officers were instructed to return all equipment relevant to the General Service Unit to the unit quarter stores. The deployment were to take place on January 12, 2022. A 26-year-old man alleged to have defiled a Class 8 pupil in Ngangarithi, Nyeri County has been freed on a 500,000 shillings bond and similar surety. The man, identified as Nicholas Moy, a line clerk at Naivas Nyeri Division, appeared before Senior Principal Magistrate James Masharia, where he was charged with defiling a 14-year-old minor between January 2nd and January 4th, 2022. Moy had initially asked the court to release him on cash bail, but Justice Masharia denied his request, citing that the offence was serious and defilement cases have been mushrooming in the country. The case will be heard on January 24th, 2022. Across the border, and Tanzania's National Assembly Speaker Job Yustino Ndugai has resigned from the position following a fallout with President Samia Suluhu Hassan. In a statement, Speaker Ndugai submitted his resignation letter to the Chama cha Mapinduzi's Secretary General, notifying of his move to step down. Ndugai explained that he had settled for the decision without any interference. The move by the Speaker comes barely a week after he crossed paths with the head of state. In a clip that went viral, the Speaker criticized the government's borrowing trend, saying it was unhealthy. The Speaker said Tanzania risks being auctioned due to rising national debt. However, days later, the guy issued an apology to President Suluhu, alleging that the video clip was edited to put tension between him and the president. And President Joe Biden tore into Donald Trump on the first anniversary of the Capitol insurrection, calling him a selfish liar who could not accept defeat and vowing to defend America's democracy. In a powerful speech at Congress Statuary Hall, one of the very spots where a pro-Trump mob ran amok a year ago, Biden took off the gloves after a year of largely ignoring Trump. Biden said the United States and much of the world is locked in a battle between democracy and autocracy. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so we're looking at that whole Jogger Road area going out towards Landis and into the CBD this morning. Quite slow. Jam-packed situation on Mombasa Road, and this is outbound. Around General Motors, beyond that, Imaradaima coming out in and outbound. And then going out into the city, Huru Highway is also piling up as well. And we're looking at traffic on Langata Road. In the middle of the city, my goodness, if you get into that, it's going to be a while before you'll be able to get out. Looking at Ring Road, Ngara, and then coming out into the city, we're looking at Juja Road piling up. The Thika Superhighway is also doing its thing right now. Limuru Road started early and it's still happening there. First, second, third, fourth, Parklands Avenues. A lot of traffic there this morning coming out of Westlands as well on Waiaki Way. Packed, and a little bit more packed. So we're in traffic hour officially, and this is what's happening here. Let us know incidents or accidents in your neck of the woods. I hope not. Just in case, we know that there was somebody who was doing the thing this morning on Limuru Road and almost caused some major accidents this morning. So please be careful, not just for yourselves, but for others. Shall we chat on Spice FM KE on Twitter? Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
8
is
after
the
8 on the 7th of January 2022. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room with you this morning is Eric Latiff and Ndu Okoh, our colleague CT Muga, took an extra 1 week. First week of the year. He's like, no. No, I'm not beginning my year like that. Nope. Different way of beginning the year. So he'll be with us in coming days. We are live on SpiceFM around the country. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, SpiceFM KE around the world. And we're also live across the region on KTN Home for the next 1 hour. Welcome to the conversation. Today's proverb is a Somali proverb. He is a fool who marries an old woman without teeth. He is a fool who marries an old woman without teeth. Now, if you focus on the without teeth bit, then you miss the whole gist of the conversation of the proverb here. It's not that if you marry an old woman with teeth, you're not a fool.
So it could have ended with, he who marries an old woman is a fool.
Yes.
Okay.
The without teeth is to add,
emphasize
on the age of this particular woman. And why is that? Marriage expectation is tutakuja lini kusalimia mtoto. Tunakuja lini kuona mtoto. Now, of course, if you marry an old woman, likelihood is that
you will not be having children.
You'll not be having children. You're a fool. Our guest for this hour is a man who's been in the entertainment industry for a number of years. He's been a part of a group of musicians called P Unit, and also in the leadership of the performing artists in the country. He has been in politics. In 2017, he threw his hat in the ring and said he had wanted to join politics. He didn't get to the ballot, but this time he's back and he says, I want to be a member of the Machakos County Assembly representing the people of Athi River Ward. His name, Francis Amisi. Frasha. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good to have you in the show. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thanks a lot for having me.
We call that the hot seat. So be prepared for us to warm it up a little bit for you as we have a conversation about leadership, about youth leadership, about future leadership, alternative leadership, and all. Karibu sana.
Thank you. It's already hot.
So you want to be MCA for Athi River?
Yes.
And this is not the first time that you are expressing interest in this particular seat. Tell us the last time, what happened?
Yeah, so I was running on Maendeleo Chap a ticket. And what Maendeleo Chap did, there was no nominations at party levels. It was negotiations, you went on the table and, they decided on somebody else. And so I stepped down. And lucky enough, I was given a job at the Machakos County as the director for youth. We did this for around 1 year, almost 2 years. And when the reshuffle was done, we found ourselves out of the government.
Okay.
But, it was a good journey for me because I got to learn something different because I was in the entertainment department. For me to jump into politics, it was quite a learning process. And, I thank the governor for giving me the opportunity at that moment. And also the people that I was working with in the same department.
So you say you learned something in the 1 year that you served as the director for youth in the Machakos County government. What did you learn?
First thing, I learned how the government works. Because, we all say we want to bring change, for me as an MCA. But once you get into the ground, you actually know how things are done in the county assembly and the county government in general. How you need support from the assembly for the government, the county government to be able to function. How you need numbers from that. So for me, I thought, I've seen how the system is working. So how do I fit in the next election?
Right.
Yeah.
Why did you make the jump? I mean, because, it's east and west as far as these two areas are concerned. Why would you want to leave the entertainment industry and then go into something as volatile as politics?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know why we try and make politics like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, to get into politics. Everything around our lives is evolved around politics. And once you realize that, then you realize that people are making decisions on your behalf. From where you're living in your house, how you're buying your things, the mkates, all these things have VAT on top of it, so we are paying taxes.
Yes.
And once you understand that, personally, I have a vision, and my vision is about serving the people. It has been shown through my life, I was once a physiotherapist. I used to serve people in terms of medical field. Got into music, serving people again, entertainment. I've been running a foundation for the last 6 years, which again goes into serving the people. So I've had an experience of just giving back to the community, and I thought, how far can I take this? And me moving from music into politics was a part of me saying, I want to take up the challenge of helping the people where I've come from, where I grew up from. And, when you go to Athi River, which is a place where I'm seeking to be elected, you'll find that things like garbage are still a problem. 2022, we're in 2022, we're still having the garbage problem. We're still having the sewage problem. We are still having the environment issues in Athi River. So I thought, maybe it's time for someone like me to just stand up and say, let me try my luck and see how far I can push, change the Athi River.
You sat in this position as Director of Youth then
Yeah.
in the government.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Did it give you a bit of a forecast into what it could possibly be if you then sat in a position then of persuasion and influence like the MCA or Member of Parliament? Did it give you a front row seat? And then what then were you able to see that could possibly make things easier for you, or at least give you a wider lens view of if you then became MCA, how you would operate differently?
Yeah. First of all, one of the things is when I was seeking election last time, after I was dropped by Mandela Chap, I was like, maybe I should stand as an independent, And I came to realize that if you're an independent, you cannot make any decisions in the assembly, because regardless of what you do, when you're passing bills, it boils down again to the parties. People will pass bills because of the party they belong to. And so for me, it was a learning process from the directorship, and then also looking at how do you get money in different departments. One of the biggest issues I had when I was in government is that we did not have any allocation of budget directly to our department. So doing things, you had to go and look for money from other departments for you to be able to push some of the things that were in your department. It was a learning process. I learned a lot, especially how do you help the youth in terms of programs by using, PPP's partnership with the private sector. How do you go ahead because the government money is somehow not enough for you to be able to achieve all the things that that have been put in the inter-county development plans. And so I learned a lot. I can say it was, for me, as I said earlier, it was an eye-opener, to serve as the director.
How is it possible that you have a department, and departments in counties are like ministries, right? So you're a director of youth. What was the department called? What's the CEC? Is the CEC for?
Yeah, so we had a CEC. The CEC was in tourism. I think tourism, sports, and youth.
So tourism, sports, and youth.
Yeah.
I would imagine that when the county executive is going to to the county assembly seeking approval of its budget, it presents that and says, "This is what we want to spend in these 10 departments, the 10 ministries of the county." So in the Ministry of Tourism, Youth and Sports, we expect X amount of money to be allocated. How can then it boil down to youth not having any budget? So where was the budget for this ministry going?
Okay, so this is what happened. When we got into government, His Excellency, the governor, actually reshuffled the ministries. So before, earlier on, my department was under education. And then we were moved from education into the tourism and, sports and youth. And so the money that had been allocated was allocated to the education department, because that's where the ministry was. And, I had been moved. So it was a challenge for me to be able to tap into that money, because it's not in my department at that particular moment. So, but, you continue as you work, people, because they know the programs are still there, you're able to channel the money from that department to your department. But as I said, government works totally different from what we think when we're outside.
Would there be, I'm looking at now what you've done and then what you hope to do. When people see you or when people hear from you, they resonate with the entertainment side of things. Is there a shedding of an image then that needs to happen in order for them to see you in a different light than when it comes to the agitation of some of these issues being put in place? I'm just looking at Athi River, for example, and the things that people are having to deal with: water and sewage and sanitation, poor roads and infrastructure, so many things that need to happen in terms of county government coming into place to meet them at the point of their need, the garbage that you talked about, market facilities. The list is endless, right? And these are things that need some serious work that need to be done, persuasion that needs to happen, boots on the ground to get the job done. Does there need, stay with me here, does there need to be a shedding of an image whereby it was entertainment before, and then people are now looking at the same individual to sort out these issues that are dogging their existence in the current day?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stereotypes out here. And I experienced this firsthand. When I was moving from medicine into entertainment, I still got the same, because people were looking at me, okay, so you're saying, are you going to treat people in the hospitals, Kwanza unaimba genge, as in, how are you going to treat me in hospitals? And that's one of the reasons I used to hide myself when I started doing music, because there was that stereotype of how do you become serious, and at the same time, for some reason, they take entertainment not very serious.
That's not serious.
Yeah. And, my thing was, how do I move from this to this? And I've been able to do that by showing people who I am. My personality speaks for itself. If we meet, and my vision for example, my life has been about serving people. And so if somebody gets to know who I am, and that's what when I go to the ground, I try and sell, because I try and sell my personality. Because I don't want to be one of those politicians that you see them and you associate them with a particular person instead of particular issues, and so I think there is a lot to be done in terms of shedding that Frasha is a musician into a leader, and it's going to take a bit of time, but I'm already working on it.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your track record? What do you bring into leadership? When you say, you want to be a leader, you've been in the music industry, like Ndu is saying, you've been the entertainer. So what pedigree do you have in leadership and leading people?
Yeah, I think Africans say leadership starts at home. I've been married for 21 years. My firstborn is 19 years. My secondborn is 17 years. Leadership has started in my house, because if you cannot get your house in order, then leadership out here can be a bit of a challenge. I've been in leadership throughout my lifetime. When I was working in Aga Khan, I was a leader back then. When I got into music, I got elected by musicians in the MCSK, in the budget committee, which again was another fight for the music industry. I think my track record in terms of leadership has been proven, and when I went to Machakos, when I was the director for youth, I was the first person to put a bill to the county assembly because when you got into that department, there was no what we call it, policies. There were no policies for the youth, and so we had to first of all sit down and do public participation, and throughout go around that whole process of getting a bill for the youth. So For me, I think if you look at me and where I come from, and you get to know, understand my personality, then you'll see some of the leadership traits that I bring on the table.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what is it that you're promising the people over the river? What do you have? Like a 2-point plan, a 10-point plan?
Yeah, I have a 5-point plan.
It has to be a number. It has to be an odd
that-
number.
There's certain things we must then hold you to. And say,
Yes,
1, 2, 3.
yes,
So what are the
yes.
5?
My first one is education. I think, for me, I think we have the national type of education whereby, but for me, I think things have changed. We're preparing our youth for a different kind of life. If you look at Machakos, one of the things that I would want to do in Athi River is to create safe spaces for young guys to be able to become creative, innovative, and just people whereby because we're dealing with millennials and they are a bit different from who we are, and we don't see this in the kind of education that we have. If you look at education in Kenya, we are preparing our youths to this kind of life that we have right now, and not, because I think the world is changing. We're not preparing for our kids for cryptocurrencies, for example, We're still teaching we're not preparing them to work from home. We're preparing them to become doctors like some of us who have been pushed to be, and it's not something that you want to do. So for me, one of the key pillars will be for education. How do we integrate policies whereby, yes, there is the national curriculum that is going on, but on the other hand, how are we developing talents in Athi River? That would be one. 2 is about the environment, and I think anybody who knows Athi River knows it as an industrial town. There are so many. We have 8 cement factories. We have KMC. We have Baba Tanneries. We have Devik, there's so many industries there. So with the industries comes a lot of pollution. And, if you look at the policies that guide pollution in Athi River, they've not been implemented. And I think one of the times the governor actually closed one of the companies because of polluting the river. So that would be another pointer for me to be able to look at how do we collect garbage? How do we have systems that go? How do we embrace recycling? Because there's one thing about disposal, but how do you embrace recycling? And through partners, you can be able to do that. The other thing that I would want to do is job creation. And job creation is how do we partner with all these companies? Because you find that the companies that are in Athi River, they will employ the local mwananchi kufanya kazi hizi za mkono. But when it comes to management levels, places where you can be able to sit on the table and make decisions about that company, the people from Athi River are not involved. So how do we look at policies whereby we get people from Athi River, locals, into the management positions in the companies that are in Athi River? The other one is infrastructure, and infrastructure, I mean roads, lights, all the normal things that everybody does. But then, again, for example, if it's something people from do this, how are they integrated in terms when you're building a road? Yes, you're building a road for the cars. How do you put a place for do this to be able to pass? How do you put a place for people to be walking? Because sometimes you find a road that has been built, yet most of the people that are in that area are actually using do this, but they're not, they're not being looked into. Tapata gari zinapita, but also undo the pia because they are carrying people. How do you make them safe on the roads? So, and then the last one will be health. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. I think if anybody who thinks about the future, when you say you want to have the youth as the future, you must look at the old people. Because if the youth are to get into positions, it means there is a generation that is growing old. And the older people, most of the things that they need is health. And so how do you look at providing health solutions that work? I can, on 2 days ago, I happened to get somebody who had an accident at Syokimau. And so we took them to Machakos General Hospital. And I had to buy everything from the plaster, from the medication,
gloves.
gloves. There was no X-ray, no MRI. And this is an hospital that
This is the level 5.
Level
Can we
5.
just take a few steps back?
Yeah.
Because I think this is extremely important in some of the things that we're talking about then.
Yeah.
If you see a situation like this and then you are then in a position later on, that you then be able to see how you can influence to change some of these things. So are you saying that when you go in and pay for treatment, you're basically only paying for the individuals who administered the care? But in terms of all these other things, they do not exist. They're not available at a level 5 hospital in
at
a
level
county?
5. At a level 5. And it's a hospital that I've helped to build, because when we were there, I was part of the group that we helped build the hospital. And for me, it was heartbreaking for me to go there 2 years later, 3 years later, and find the only thing that was there was the health caregivers. And I'm telling you, they were overwhelmed, because if you look at, I come from a medical background, so I know what it means to give health care. And so for me to go there are no gloves, even spirits, sanitizers, small things that people need to find in hospitals. And it was a great shock for me. And I actually talked to the nurses to try to get, but they're saying this is what happens here, because
This is the everyday.
Every day, and that's a level 5. So in Athi River we have a level 4. So you can imagine, if a level 5 has such issues, how do you get into a level 4? And so for me is how do we get policies to never have a situation like that?
So let's take a break. When you come from the break, we'll look through the 5-point agenda that you have: education, environment, job creation, infrastructure, and health. And tell us the how, because all these things, I'm sure if you have very other candidates who are seeking the same position, they'll tell us some of these things. So how is it that Francis Amisi then would champion change and meaningful change in this area? We're having a conversation with Francis Amisi, Frasha, musician, medical professional, former physiotherapist, who wants to be the next MCA for Athi River Ward in Machakos County. One of the reasons why we're having these conversations is because we know for sure the next county governments, the next national assemblies and county assemblies are going to have over 50% first-time members. Who are those first-time members? What's their thinking? Can we start interrogating them, all of us as a country? This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, on SpiceFM, online and on KTN Home. 8:30.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me, what channel is Spice FM?
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
The sun is out in Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Sunny conditions in Nakuru at 16, highs of 26 and lows of 13. Nyeri at 16, mostly cloudy, highs of 24 and lows of 13. Today, while in Eldoret at 17 degrees, it's partly sunny. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 12. In Mombasa, the rain continues at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 26. And sunny conditions in Malindi at 29. We see highs of 32 and lows of 27. It's sunny in Kisumu at 23, highs of 30 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega, sunny conditions at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 15. There's still a haze over Kampala skies at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 18, while it's raining in some parts of Dar es Salaam at 29. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. Joburg is partly sunny at 17, highs of 24 and lows of 15, while in Lagos it's clear at 26, highs of 33 and lows of 25. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa. The lows will be 24, going to highs of 32.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, it's reducing a little bit on Langata Road today as you're getting out into the city. Those who use the southern bypass, getting out towards Langata Road, it'll be all right as you get to that roundabout. If you used the bypass and then now are connecting on Gong Road, you should be okay until you get then to the roundabout at the City Mortuary. Then you have a bit of a clog up as you go out then towards 5th and Gong Avenue and the community area. Kenyatta Avenue building up. The Uhuru Highway that's connecting Gong Road as well as Valley Road. There's a bit of action there. Landis Road in and outbound is an absolute mess this morning. Looking at Outer Ring, looking pretty good, folks, especially in the middle there, just past that Umoja turnoff. Kangundo Road, a bit of traffic. The Thika Superhighway, we've had a good week. We're just looking at that Pangani underpass as you get out into the city. And Limuru Road is still heavy this morning through the most of the Parklands area. A lot of traffic as well as Westlands. You know what to do. The Red Hill Link Road is going to help out this morning. Use that as an option. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 26 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, and online, live streaming the show on Facebook and YouTube. SpiceFM KE. In the room with you is Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, and Frasha, Francis Amesi, entertainer, a physiotherapist, wants to be the next MCA for Athi River. What the Situation Room is doing today and in coming days is vetting Kenya's next leaders. We know for sure that the next National Assembly, the next Senate, the next 47 county assemblies will have more than 50% of new leaders. First-timers. Just based on the experience of the previous elections. So who are these new leaders and what is it that they bring to the table? We've been talking about the frustrations that people have with the current crop of leaders. Okay, so you're looking for new leadership. Who are they? And that's why we have Frasha and others who will be joining us. Diru Shah is on the line and he wants to ask a question to Frasha. Diru, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very
Thank
well.
you for giving me time.
Okay.
I have a question to the MCA. You cannot create jobs besides government. Government is overloaded by people, which are 50% to be reduction for the new budget, new government comes in, if it to be function. What is your idea? How can you create jobs without government jobs?
Very good.
That is one. Second question is, the biggest problem for us as a manufacturer or living in Kenya is a cost of doing anything. And one of the costs, which one of the element is levies. We have got 17 levies in our country. Like he was a musician, so he understands that he has been paying levies. In return, what he has been getting on levies. And what is the view? The levy can be suspended for 5 years and all those people can be sent home running the levies. That is the question.
Asante. So start with the job creation, because this is one of the things that you're saying. This is among your pillars.
Yeah.
Job creation.
That's a very good question. And most people will ask you, so you're coming in and, you know, there was an MCA here before. He promised us the same thing to create jobs. But how do you do this? And for me, first of all, is to create an enabling environment for business to thrive. When I say this, is for both the government, the county government, and to the business people. What I intend to do is, first of all, to create laws that would enable the businessmen, in terms of the levies that he's talking about, take them down a bit. I think we did this during the COVID season, whereby the government of Machakos actually reduced some of the levies to the business people. And this can be done if there is proper planning of how much money do we get into the government, into the county governments. And for me, I think one of the things, the basic things would be to create laws that will be able to help the people that are doing business in Athi River to reduce the levies that they pay.
Okay.
In turn,
let's go into the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
All right. Creating laws that will have an enabling environment that will then spur economic growth and have industries coming in. We have laws in Machakos County presently. Which laws are these that you want to repeal? Which laws do you want to amend? Which new legislation do you want to introduce?
Okay.
Specifics.
Right. Now, first of all, before we get into the laws, the biggest challenge would any MCA would have, or any member of parliament would have, is what numbers do you have in the county assembly? So that even if I want to change a law, for example, the levies that are put on people who do transport, for example, because in Athi River there's a lot of mining, so there's a lot of levies that are paid on the road for you to be able to transport. So, for example, if we were to reduce these levies, if I was to come up with a law that said, okay, now we can reduce these levies, will I table it in Parliament in the county assembly, and people would they pass it or not? Because if I don't have numbers, and if our party that is the majority, as the majority assembly members, does not pass it, then whatever vision that I have to be able to help people, I'll not be able to accomplish it. And that's one of the reasons why you'll hear a young person who has gotten into government, and people say, this guy is not working. Why? Because he does not enjoy the numbers in the assembly. Because whatever things you're thinking about in your head for you to be able to pass cannot see the light of day when they go into assembly.
But Frasha, there are two things here. There's one, an assembly, National Assembly, County Assembly, is a house of debate.
Yes.
House of debate means convincing people to see your point of view. Now, if you come with something that is logical, even you can cut through party lines and get people to sponsor it or to support it. I want to hear this logical thing. So tell me, for example, yes, we have got all these trucks that bring sand across Athi River, some of them coming through from Makueni through Athi River, through Machakos County into Machakos, all these businesses. So this is a specific law that creates these levies, and this is how much the levies are, and I want to reduce this by X%, or from this levy reduced by 100 shillings, and that then will have this kind of impact. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear specifics, Frasha.
Yeah, Latif, and unfortunately, our governments don't work like that. People will always vote on party lines, unfortunately. And whatever, even if I came up with the best ideas, or for example, in terms of health, because that's one of the places, or even creatives, even if I came up with a very good draft law, if I do not enjoy the majority in the party, in the local assembly, unfortunately, that is what happens. And that is why people have not understood how it is important for you to have numbers, to have the right party, and to have the numbers in the assembly for you to be able to pass laws. So
what party are you vying with?
For me, for now, I've not decided the party.
You're weighing the party that's likely to be the strongest party. So let's assume you actually land on the party that then has the numbers in the assembly. What are you going to do? Let's talk about that. Job creation. Again, specifics.
Right. So when I was in county assembly, to the county government, as I said, I was one of the directors of youth. And one of the things that I did was to push for the policies for youth to get employed by some of the companies that are in Athi River, to make it mandatory for them to have a certain percentage of young people that are employed into those companies. This is already in the CIDP for the counties, which was, I think we passed it, public participation was in November last year. And this is what is going to come into place in 2022 to the next elections. So part of the things that I want to do is make it mandatory for all companies that work in Athi River to have a certain amount of people from Athi River to be employed into this. Two, if you look at the environment, as we look at it, it's a place where we can employ a lot of youth. As I said, there is garbage disposal, but again, there is recycling. looking at partners that we can be able to get. For example, if it's a football team, football teams are just, people do tournaments, and you have a large sum of amount for young guys to come and play the football and then get the amount. But what happens afterwards? So for me, it's how do I create value addition into these teams in terms of how do they get sponsorship for them to start small businesses. This can be done through government. We can, for example, in Machakos, we had a plan to have all the teams that, because we have a regional county tournament. So for these people that are playing these tournaments, we add a bus something we call, I can't remember the name of the amount of money that they were supposed to be given for them to start small businesses in terms of car washes, if it's packaging of water for them to be able to sell around. And now it's mandatory that all counties have female football teams. These are just random ideas that I'm getting. For example, the female teams, how do you then after the football, how do you make them, have something sustainable? So, for example, in the county when I was working there, for the female teams, we were giving them money for them to start off, small businesses such as, selling of nyanyas, selling of whatever, and for them to have a table banking whereby they be able to get money from the county government, do business, and be able to send, pay back the money for this. So there are small things that I've looked into. There are details that I may not be able to give right now, but there are small places whereby I know we can be able to create jobs for these young people in Athi River.
Right. Does it worry you? With all these ideas that you have, and also with the policy change that you hope to bring about, after having worked in government, does it worry you that if you then don't make the right decision in terms of which party you'll be part of, then all of these things will be dead in the water? And I think it's a very scary place to be.
It is.
As an aspiring leader, that if you don't make the right party decision, that essentially everything that you want to do will go to blazes.
Yeah, it is. Let me tell you one of the things that I believe in. I'm personally a Luo and Kamba, but I've been born in Machakos. I'm married to a Kikuyu, right? And what happens is that our parties are not aligned on issues. As a Kenyan, not even as somebody who's vying, as a Kenyan, our parties are aligned on tribal basis, basically. And so for someone like me who doesn't agree, and, I don't agree with some of the, the card that is used as tribe, I find myself in a place whereby, when you look at it, is in Machakos, there's this, party that is big. In Luoland, there's this party which is big. In, maybe Rift Valley, there's this party which is big. And if you don't align yourself in those parties, then you find yourself out of, development. You cannot have a development track record because whatever you're pushing down into the assemblies or into the parliament is being shot down because your party is not the majority in the assembly.
I think it's important for Kenyans to hear. So do you think, it's very important in terms of what you want to do, but it's also important how you perceive what is currently happening in today's government and in today's administration. So do you think that even those who have the power of party numbers, are they doing enough with what they have at their disposal in terms of developments in the different areas that they represent?
Again, comes down to interest. And that is why I said when I was beginning that everything involves politics. And so once you get into those positions and you have those numbers, again, people come back to what are the interests of these people? What is the interest of your elected member of parliament? What is the interest of your MCA in your region? Is it to build roads? Is it to create jobs? Is it to, for example, create spaces for creatives? What do they want to push? Because if, for example, you don't come into from the entertainment world, you wouldn't know what to push in terms of creatives. If you don't come from a medical background, then when it comes to medicine, you actually don't know the background of it. So depending on what your elected member wants to push, I think whatever numbers they get will depend again on what he himself wants to push as his agenda. Yeah.
So if you go to Parliament, to the County Assembly of Machakos, looking again at the 5 issues that you said, health, okay? So you're a medical professional. You know, you've worked in a working health facility in the private sector. You've also, interacted with the public sector. What ails Machakos health system, and what is it that you want to do to fix it?
I don't think it's even Machakos. It's just generally the health problem in our country. And I think this came about when there was, first of all, the healthcare system was being managed by the national government. And then it was pushed down to the county assembly. And the problem is that the big money is controlled by the national government in terms of health. And this money for the county assemblies, you've had, county governments, you've had them complain time and time again that they don't get the money in time, so they're not able to plan. So the biggest problem will be, how do we get this money channeled directly to the county assemblies for them to be able to sustain the healthcare system?
What do you mean directly?
Because
from taxpayer directly to the county? Or is it from the national treasury?
From the national treasury direct to the healthcare system. The biggest problem is this. So, for example, in Machakos, why Muthui had issues is because he couldn't control the assembly. And so whatever, ideas and whatever budgets he was looking for would actually go down to the assembly. And there would be an issue there. So I think, number one, the healthcare system, it's either needs to be run by the national government and take away the county governments. For it to be, if you're employed by the national government. If it's money that is coming, it's coming from the national government. And if it's plans for how they expand, it comes from the national government. Or push it down to the county government and make sure it's sustained by the amount of money that is pushed from the national government.
So which of those two will you be advocating for if you become MCA? Do you want health to move away from county government to go back to national?
No. I think devolution is a good thing. The moment you start pushing things down to the county governments, I think it's good because it goes down to Mwananchi. That's the closest that Mwananchi can actually get.
Okay. But so what should the county government of Machakos, and what will you do as member of the county government of Machakos to make sure that, at least for Machakos, then money is disbursed on time and adequately?
I think it all boils down to policies and then implementation and having the right people for the job at the right time for the job. If you look at the people that were employed previously, I think when we were building Machakos Hospital, there are people who have had cases of embezzling funds from the county government, and there are many people with cases right now for doing this. I think is to get the right people for the job and the right policies, and make sure that there is a sustainable way of making the hospitals get money for the drugs, money for the facilities.
How?
A policy. As I said, it's to create policies.
Is there no policy at present, or will you be amending a policy? Will you be introducing a new policy? I think currently what's happening, and then how is it going to be different?
Currently what is happening is that there's nothing happening in the hospitals. Because for what I saw for myself, and this was in a level 5 hospital, I can say that that's not an hospital. It's a consultation room whereby you go and you consult with your doctor, and then if it's medicine, everything you have to go, you go buy it for yourself. So there has to be policy, and this is, I'm telling you, if there was a policy that involved finances in the hospitals, it would be easier for the management of the hospitals to make the hospitals run.
I do not believe that there's a policy in place right now in the national level or at the Machakos County government level that says you go into the county's referral hospital, you should not find these supplies.
There isn't.
It's not a policy that says that you walk in and you don't find gloves or spirit or sanitizer. Or are you
saying that there's no policy by which health is guided in the county? Things are just ad hoc in terms of financial flows.
Exactly financial flows. There is no policy that says there shouldn't be a drug. There is policies that say this is how the money should be channeled down to the healthcare system. But now there is no follow up for how does this money come on time? Does this why are people not getting paid in time? The healthcare workers is because the money does not come down in time.
From where?
There is from the national.
So money
treasury.
from the national treasury
Yes.
is not coming to the counties on time.
Yes.
What would the county government, what would the county assembly of Machakos do to make money come from the national treasury on time?
And that's why I said it's not a Machakos issue. It's a general healthcare issue.
But you will be in the Machakos County.
Exactly. So my thing is lobbying, and that's why I said always look for numbers for you to be able to get money down. Because if money doesn't come down, then the problem that you're seeing in Machakos happens. And that's why the people in county assemblies need to lobby each other for them to be able to pull money from the national treasury. And this has been there. I think you've seen these fights over and over again. And it's not something that would go away easily. So first of all is to get into a party and make sure that in your party there is the push of how do we get money down to the county assemblies for them to be able to implement whatever programs they have.
Do you think that there is enough to be able to get things done? There's always room for more, to be able to rise, developmentally. But at the moment, do you think there's enough? And obviously I'm talking here about funding. At the government level, at the barest minimum, to get things running in a manner that will uphold the integrity of areas and Kenya's people. Is there enough right now?
I think there is enough. There is something that you can do from whatever we have in county assemblies and in county governments. The only people is, do we have the right people in places? For me, that becomes the biggest problem. If, for example, we have seen all counties for the last 10 years, there are some counties that have developed more than others. There are some counties which have used the resources they have better than others. So I think it's if you have the right leadership and if you have the right person in for the job at the right time, as I said. Yeah.
Kenyan Edwin says, many aspirants that you've spoken to promise to create and pass laws that will cushion the wananchi. Do they realize how difficult it is and how long it takes to pass a law?
As I say, that is the reality on the ground. And people, and that's one of the things that I learned, because the reality is, first of all, you must have numbers. Like it or not, you must have numbers. Regardless of what ideas you have for you to be able to pass and change any laws, there has to be a lot of lobbying, there has to be a lot of work on the public participation. All this, it's a tedious process, and until you understand that, then you can come in with ideas of changing and making a lot of changes in the area that you want to go in and get a rude shock, because if you don't understand the system, how the system works, you cannot fight that system.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The main things that you would be doing as a member of the county assembly would be representing the people of Athi River Ward, making sure that the county executive of Machakos is held to account, and this is oversighting its operations, and then also legislation. So we've talked a lot about lawmaking and the process of lawmaking, and you're saying the things that you're saying. Looking back still at the number of things that you're talking about, environment and education. Education is not a devolved function.
Yeah.
You're talking about having an education system that then addresses the things that you're saying, preparing the youth for the new generation. So what would the county assembly do? I mean, there is no law that you can pass that would affect the Kenya's education system at the county assembly of Machakos. Yep. There is no law that you can pass that would say the standard grade 6 pupils in Machakos County will now be taught about cryptocurrency. So what is it that you want to do about education?
Yeah, as I said before, I want to create safe spaces in terms of education. Education in tertiary education, education in creating spaces in places like the University of Machakos, the colleges in Machakos, a place where just young people can go in and learn extra from what the education system is there to offer. For example, in Machakos, we have 6 youth centers. These youth centers are in the towns, and the kind of education that people are supposed to get from these places are not delivered to the youth the right way, because they are not where the youths are. And the youths are these young guys are in campuses, and the others are in schools. So if we can be able to build a safe space, just a place where the government is able to disseminate information in terms of education for things like the cryptocurrencies that we are talking about, things like health, having a safe space for health. For example, also in hospitals, how do we create a space whereby we have creatives? There's, for example, something called arts in medicine, which is something that I was trying to push. Arts in medicine is whereby we have entertainers helping the healthcare givers to take care of palliative care. People who have cancer, there's no medication that actually can help them, but you can be able to help them in terms of art in medicine. How do they draw? How do they, get music into the... These are some of the ideas that I have in terms of education, and there are new areas that have not been tapped, and there are new areas that I know if we tapped into them, one, they would create employment. Two, again, they'll also create something new and for the patients who are, for example, in hospitals. So I have these all ideas that given time, I will be able to show in terms of education. I'm not concerned really about the curriculum, but how do we add value?
How much more value can you add into it? So as we conclude the conversation this morning, take the next 30 seconds. Speak to the people of Athi River.
Yeah, first of all, nendo mokethia muno andu ma Athi River. I want to say hi to the people of Athi River. Nawashukuru sana. I've had a journey with the Athi River people. This is where I was born, and so I want, in 2022, this is the year for me to be elected as the MCA for Athi River. Naomba kura zenyu ya kwanza, ya pili najua niko tayari kuwatumikia na niko tayari kufanya kazi na nyinyi kama kazi na mzalendo wa Athi River. So for me it's just to ask the people of Athi River to vote for me in 2022.
Francis Amisi Frasha wants to be the next MCA for Athi River ward in Machakos County. He's been here with us. He's been telling us what he'd like to do if elected by the people of Athi River ward into the Machakos County Assembly. Well, thank you very much for tuning into the conversation. And thanks to everybody who's watched us on KTN Home. The conversations continue on Spice FM. In the next hour, we'll have different conversations and we'll open up the phone lines for you to join us in those. A very good morning to you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
The Spice FM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. A 14-year-old girl in Kisumu, Kakamega County has committed suicide. According to a police report, the body was found in her home by her father, who informed police officers. It is alleged that the deceased left a letter explaining the reasons for the suicide. The body was taken to Kakamega Referral Hospital awaiting autopsy. Charles Maingi Muthui, the man accused of killing his two children on Monday this week at his home in Badesa village, Kinango in Kwale County, is expected to appear in court today. The 54-year-old Muthui, who was arrested in Kagera Lungalunga, will be arraigned in Mariakani Court, Kilifi County. Since his arrest, the suspect has been interrogated by officers from Kinango Detective Department. Muthui is alleged to have killed his children Perelia Nduki and Maratina Maingi. Muthui committed the act following a dispute between him and his wife Lunge Mwema, who escaped after discovering her life was in danger. Now, ODM Chief Raila Odinga is today expected to celebrate his 77th birthday at the Bomas of Kenya. Kenyans have taken to the social media to celebrate him as he turns a year older, with the ODM Director of Communications Philip Etale confirming the celebrations at the Bomas of Kenya. Raila will be joined by his family and invited guests anytime from now to noon. Westlands MP Tim Wanyonyi visited Raila at his home to present him with a birthday present. Kirinyaga County Women Representative Purity Wangui Ngirishi sent a message of good wishes. Ngirishi, who wants to become Kirinyaga governor as an independent candidate against incumbent governor Anne Waiguru, shocked many on social media after sending the message to Odinga. Some observers have suggested that Ngirishi may be favouring Odinga after splitting from Deputy President William Ruto's UDA, Raila's main rival in the August general election. In addition, they said the move to send early birthday wishes to Odinga is a major political statement that indicates a direction that should not be ignored. It was only last month that Ngirishi accused UDA of favouring Anne Waiguru, her bitter rival in the Kirinyaga governorship race. After finishing his tour of Western region, Deputy President William Ruto heads to West Pokot County and Elgeyo Marakwet before holding a major rally in Uasin Gishu County this weekend. While in Vihiga, Ruto continued to urge ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya to join him in the run-up to next year's general election. Earlier, Musalia and Wetangula said they had not received any formal invitation to hold talks with Ruto, with Mudavadi saying he would not be afraid to make it clear whether he would hold a meeting with any politician and that it was his right to work with anyone. Now, it is a political season in the country, and with that comes political strategies employed by various candidates aimed at outdoing their competitors in the best way possible. These are seen aspirants give promises of what they'll do for those that will vote for them. The latest is Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria, who has promised to give a cow to any homestead that votes for him for president, adding up to hilarious campaign pledges by Kenyan leaders. First, it was Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua's pledge for up to 1 million shillings for newlyweds to put up homes if voted president in the August election. The Usawa Kawote Party presidential aspirant noted that all aspirants seeking to use the party must be aligned with his goal of ensuring that each homestead gets a cow. Prime Minister Raila Odinga has pledged to give unemployed Kenyans 6,000 shillings monthly stipend. Deputy President William Ruto is, on the other hand, promising to set up 50 billion shillings fund for small and medium entrepreneurs to access cheap loans to expand their business. In the 2017 election, incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta and his running mate William Ruto campaigned on a platform of offering laptops to every Class 1 pupil in what turned out to be the biggest fallacy because it was not implemented. Now, the World Health Organization has warned against describing the Omicron variant as mild, saying it is killing people across the world. Recent studies suggest that Omicron is less likely to make people seriously ill than previous COVID variants. WHO Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said that the record number of people catching it was less health systems under severe pressure. The WHO added that the number of global cases has increased by 71% in the last week and in the Americas by 100%. It said that among severe cases worldwide, 90% were unvaccinated. Omicron is highly contagious and can infect people even if they are fully vaccinated. However, vaccines are still pivotal as they help protect against severe disease that could put you in hospital. The reason why Newswire continues to urge you to go get vaccinated, protect yourself and those that you love, and also remember to observe the COVID-19 protocols. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so there's a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're still seeing a clog up in the middle of the city on Landys Road, and that's quite something this morning that you need to look out for. Coming off Langata Road looks much better now, but Jogger Road started thumping very early, and we're still in that state. Where we have the most drama now is getting off of Uhuru Highway, getting into the city, quite some of that, coming out of Westlands, Parklands, that whole area, Ngara, East, West, Murang'a Road, Juja Road. Wow. So that's what the morning is looking like. Hopefully we'll be out of traffic hour earlier than usual, but it looks like certain parts mishmash here and there, but not too bad. Let's keep an eye on things. Help us out here. What are you seeing in your neck of the woods? Spice FM KE, text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
9 on the 7th of January 2022. Victor Saropoulos says, good morning guys, tune in kama kawaida. Naona mzee bado anashughulikia miwa. Yes, he's still in Tamu, dealing with miwa. And then from Zambia, Adam Chiyokoma is in Lusaka watching us. Our live stream on SpiceFM KE, Facebook and YouTube. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Julia says, you know, there's a story in the Bible that one day God was just there chilling, whistling, and then he saw someone cross. Whoosh. He thought, wait, isn't that the guy I banished the other day from here? That's Satan.
Yeah.
So Satan was just walking by heaven, and God called him and where have you been? Where are you coming from? I don't know. I was just down there on earth, walking up and down earth. Julia says, I guess what Satan meant was that he was bugging God's people, using them to do the mukuru kind of things. Demolitions and such.
Demolitions.
Okay, today's proverb is a Somali proverb. He is a fool who marries an old woman without teeth. He is a fool who married an old woman without teeth. Self-explanatory, I hope. Let's continue the conversations. So, towards the end of last year, one time, fellow Kenyans, Health Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Senator Muthui Kagwe, EGH, held a press conference and said, you know what, very soon, in a few days, by mid-December, we are going to require anybody who's who's seeking government services to produce a COVID vaccine certificate as proof that they have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Some people went to court and there was, a stoppage of that order. And Muthui Kagwe said, no. We are not going to force anybody. We are not going to make it mandatory for anybody to be vaccinated against COVID. But if you want to access government services in person, you must produce a COVID vaccine certificate. If not, seek other ways of accessing government services.
So in other words,
you must get the COVID vaccine certificate, but it's not mandatory. But you must although it's not mandatory. The date came, 21st December. And we started seeing several other non-state actors like malls, like hotels, announcing that they are not going to allow patrons into their premises unless they produce a COVID vaccine certificate as proof that you've been vaccinated. And this started with one mall, one hotel, second mall, second hotel, third mall. It's now spread. There are very many places that now you're entering and they ask you, iko wapi certificate? Certificate ya nini? Good conduct. COVID. The government insists it's not mandatory. But it says you ought to produce. Now, if you look at what the government is doing, one of the reasons why they say that they cannot force anybody is because they know the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that we have, that you cannot force people into this kind of thing. Although the government has powers under the Public Health Act for the minister in charge of health to actually impose certain measures and restrictions. That's what they were using to force everybody to wear a face mask in public.
Yes.
That's the law that they've been using, the strength of the law that they've been using to say you must maintain social distancing. That's the strength of the law that they've been using to say matatus must carry a reduced number of people. It's the same that they've used even to advise the ministry in charge of interior to impose curfews and such. So the government has leeway.
Yes.
But they have chosen not to use the leeway that they have to actually go and gazette it and say everybody must produce a COVID vaccine certificate. They know why. But they are going through the back door to start having COVID vaccine mandates in this country. I have argued against it once. I have argued against it another time. I am fully vaccinated, but I do not think that you should just force people if they feel uncomfortable about it, for whatever reason. Now, there are people who have very many reasons why. You've interacted with a few people.
There are very many people who are saying very many things. I mean, I even just put a list down here. Somebody said, the first vaccine that I got made me extremely sick. I was very, very sick after that for a couple of days.
Jab.
That was the first jab. And I needed to get a second one. After what I went through, I don't want to do it again. I don't want to miss work. I don't want to feel the malaise that I was feeling for over that period of time. I'm not going to do it again, period.
So because of the side effects that they experienced after the first jab, they have not gone for the second jab.
And they don't intend to.
And they don't intend to.
No.
Okay.
Because something that essentially should be protecting me made me so sick.
I thought I'm going to die.
Literally. I don't think I'm going to do this again. Another one talks about, I would like to give birth again. And this one, by the way, is something that has spread like wildfire. We're not even talking about whether it is true or not. We're not even talking about whether there is a danger of sterilization or not from the COVID vaccine. Whether that narrative has been countered by science to say that you let your fears be allayed, nothing like that. The truth is that fear is resident in the minds of many people, men and women, who are telling their wives, do not get this COVID vaccine because we still plan on having children. Please forget about it. And women themselves who are saying,
this could affect us.
Yes, I'm not even married, but I would like to at some point have children. I'm not even in a relationship. I would like to at some point have children. And if this vaccination is going to hinder my chances in any way, then I'd rather not.
If it's likely to affect my fertility, or if it's likely to affect how the baby develops within me, if it's likely to affect the baby that I give birth to, because I'm not sure, I don't know anything that has shown the contrary, then
I'm not going to do it. There are others who have gotten COVID and recovered from it and are feeling, well, I'm fine. I've shown that I can get over this.
I've survived it.
I've survived it. So now what am I getting vaccinated from?
I've got some level of immunity because
now you want
I
to
have the
inject
antibodies.
me with the virus again. I have already developed antibodies to it. I'm all right. Thinking that it's like chickenpox of the measles, whereby I've got it the first time, I'm good. I won't get it again.
And they'll argue and ask you, so what is in the vaccine?
The disease.
It's the virus.
Yes. The virus is in the disease, so you want to inject me with
I have it.
I have it already. I've had it. I was sick.
I have that disease that you want to inject.
And I'm fine.
It's in my body already. So it's already fighting.
And my body has already fought it, and we came out victorious. Here we are. So why should I get your vaccine? This is a situation now. And then there are those who just feel like this is a medical decision. It is private. Why should you then trample upon what I'm able to do based on a decision of something that is going into my body? Why should you then curtail me from doing other things because I have made a decision about my body and what I am going to put into my body? Whether or not I took my children for vaccination or I did, it doesn't matter. In this case, I have made the decision not to, for whatever it is. And you should not then be able to come to me and tell me now, because of that, I will not allow you to do 1, 2, 3 over a personal decision. Those are the 4 that I have.
There are those who've argued, all right, so if you get the COVID vaccine, are you immune from contracting COVID? The answer is
no.
No. if you get COVID after you've gotten the vaccine, are you likely to transmit COVID? The answer is yes.
You still can, yes.
So
What
you
are we
cannot
saying?
then argue that this person who is out there who has been vaccinated is allowed to be in public, and the person who is out there who's unvaccinated is a greater is a great risk to others.
Whereby you can
both
still
of
get
them
it. Mhm.
can still get it. Both of them can transmit.
Yeah.
Why are you giving preferential treatment to the one who you say has a shield?
As this thing has been
It's
developing,
not protecting the
Right.
third party.
As this thing has been developing over time, they've been able to find out a little bit more information, right? And so what the science has shown, and we've had, the medical bodies like the World Health Organization and the CDC is telling us that what you have done with this protection is that you've reduced the severity of the symptoms that this virus will give you with the vaccination.
Yep.
Right? So if you've been vaccinated and you have not, you both contract COVID. The person who has been vaccinated is likely to have a lower severity of symptoms than the one who has not. That you would get sick, but you would not get as sick if you have not been vaccinated. So that has been the counter argument to that.
Okay. It's not really a counter, because what it's saying is the person who's been vaccinated has a lower chance of getting hospitalized as a
Yes.
result of.
Or even if you are hospitalized, you would come out on top.
Yes.
Yes.
Show that argument on allowing then the person to be out in public. Are they a lesser threat to others? No, they are not.
No, you could still give it to somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if it's about being out in public, it's about interacting with others. Those that have been saying, if you don't have a COVID vaccine certificate, you cannot enter this facility because then you're a threat to others. How is this person a threat to the others more than the person who has a certificate?
This is where the
Those are the arguments
This
that
is
are
where
so-
it's all coming out and saying that, okay, so if I actually don't, am I making it if I have not been vaccinated and I'm wearing my masks,
Yes.
and I am
And I'm
following
observing social
and
distance.
observing the protocols which you set in place, even for the people that you have told get vaccinated, you have still told those people wear your
The
mask.
basics are still the same.
Basic protocols are still the same. Now, if I am doing those things and coming out in public, the only thing that hinders me then from coming into this establishment is this vaccination, which you've already told us does not completely protect you from getting this vaccine again. It's a valid argument on the part of those who for some reason have not been vaccinated and don't intend to.
So we are seeing this being rolled out in the country. In Kenya, people are being denied service in public places and also in private establishments on account of not having received the COVID vaccine.
Yes.
And that's a question we want to have this morning with you. 0719-012-600. Is the government violating people's rights by championing denial of access to services in private and public sector on account of the COVID vaccine certificate? Is this it? There are those that argue, for example, that the world must direct humans about this vaccine. We are vaccinated against the virus and still we are very positive and risky to the virus. There are those that are saying, okay, it's about the government doing what the government ought to do, that it's protect its people in general.
That they have a mandate to protect its people.
Yes.
And if this is what they have to do, then this is one of the ways that they're going to go ahead and do this.
Yes.
And insist that everybody has been vaccinated.
And I'm saying, if that is the argument, then the government should go ahead and gazette it. Muthui Kagwe should go and gazette it and say, everybody must get vaccinated.
Setting up the guy.
For as long as he's not saying that, then don't tell me that I cannot access any service.
You set him up when you ask him to do something like that. Gazette it, mandate it, make it a part of a temporary emergency law, essentially. Get this thing done or else. You know exactly what's going to happen when he does something like that.
Let's argue after he does it.
People are going to run to the court.
Before that, he has no grounds
like rats
at
off a
all.
ship. Rats off a ship to go to the court and stop that thing. You know exactly what is going to happen.
Yes.
There's a reason why he's avoiding that. But he keeps urging and encouraging you to go and get protected.
He is not encouraging. The government, let me just put it very clearly. The government of Kenya is mandating people to get COVID vaccines.
So you're saying essentially that the mandate is okay. But what we are saying now is don't make it a suggestion. gazette it.
I am against the
make it-
mandates.
I understand that, but
Yes.
you're saying that don't pitter-patter around this thing.
Yes.
Just put it down. Let's know that this is where we
If
are.
you want to talk to me direct. Don't go through the corners. If you want people to be mandated to get the COVID vaccine, go and gazette it. But don't come out here and say, no, we are not going to force people. And then at the same time, you're forcing
people.
Because that's what the government is doing. The government is forcing people to get the COVID vaccine. That is a violation of people's rights. 0719-012-600. We want to hear from you. Do you agree with me or do you not? Do you agree with Muthui Kagwe when he says, you know what, everybody, you want to get access to government services, show us a vaccine. And working with various private sectors and saying, those private sector organizations are saying, you want to enter my premises, show me the vaccine. Is this right? Jack in Eldoret, good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you?
I'm good. Where is Mr. Rhino, Mr. Omuga?
Mr. Omuga is away for a bit. He'll be back next week.
Otherwise, the daily probe will be just there. So this issue about the vaccine has bring a lot of confusion because those who are vaccinated are waiting for those who are not vaccinated to die. And those who are not vaccinated are waiting for those who are vaccinated to die. Another thing is, what is the meaning of vaccination in the first place? Vaccination, it means that when you are vaccine against a certain type of disease, it means that you will not get it, you know? Yeah, so I can see that we are saying that if you are vaccinated, you still get the virus. Again, even if you can see now, countries like US are being overwhelmed already with the Omicron variant. So you can see, I don't see why they are forcing people to get vaccinated, and yet it's not. We are not even sure, you know. And what if you have been hearing about the COVID scandals, you know? What if next year you hear the vaccine scandal, so maybe you are being injected with
And it's already in your system.
Yeah, because we cannot even trust again those people who are. We trust the WHO, but we cannot trust our people.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Abraham in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, Ndu and Eric.
Good morning.
I'd start by first saying that I'm fully vaccinated.
Okay.
I had the just one. But you have to remember that there was a few years ago, I think it was in the previous century, an American pharmaceutical company went and did some, trials on children in Nigeria, northern Nigeria specifically. I forget the disease that they were trying to...
Polio.
But what they did,
It was polio.
Polio.
Yes.
Yeah, and they really ruined those children's lives, That kind of thing doesn't really get out of your mind. So when governments now start coming around and telling you that if you want to do this, you must do this. If you want to get your ID, if you want to pick up your passport, you must do this. What people start wondering is that hawa watu wameuza Kenya yote sasa wameona hata watuuze sana. That's what they think.
Yeah.
You know, if they want to get to hit the number that they want to hit, they should not approach it with a stick. They should approach it with a carrot. The same thing that they do with blood donations. You go like when they used to come around to school.
They give you
go there because you've already finished everything. You get your soda and you get your milk or whatever. Yeah. People are in dire situations. If they went that Nakuru that they are demolishing, if they went in the middle of it and said, "Kila mtu mwenye anadungwa, you get your bread, you get your unga ya ngano," I'm telling you, nobody would bother. Nobody would bother with opposing them. The line would be
longer than they can manage.
Exactly. So they should not be approaching this with a stick. Ukikuja na kifua, people decide, I am also a man, I am also a grown woman.
Niko na kifua pia.
Hata niko na kifua, kana hiyo ID yako. Niko na uzo.
Okay. Thank you, Abraham.
Thank you.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600. What do you think? So the government is not forcing you to go get the COVID vaccine, but the government is saying if you'd like to access government services, you ought to produce a COVID vaccine certificate. And this has also now been taken by several malls, hotels, and other public places which say the management reserves the right of admission. And we are basing this on the fact that we want you to produce a COVID-19 vaccine certificate. Is this a violation of the rights of the citizens of Kenya? When the government is encouraging this private sector to go ahead and actually deny you admission into their premises because you have not gone for the government vaccine.
I mean, look, the answer to, when you look at it like that, the answer directly is yes, that your rights are being trampled on, or because they're denying you something that you would otherwise do. Now, how does it come against their mandate as government to protect the people of the country when it comes to a threat such as this one? Because threats come in different form. Look at what's happening with the threat of terrorism currently. And what has the government done? Deployed police officers over the place.
Imposed a curfew in Lamu, for instance.
Imposed curfew in Lamu. Peketoni at that time when it happened, they did the same thing. There have been curfews that were placed in Laikipia. Government's mandate to protect its people set certain things in motion, right? Look at another thing that's happening now, education-wise. Government said, okay, we've seen unrest in schools, we want to protect infrastructure. We're going to subject students to drug tests, and then thereafter, we're going to see what we'll do about it. You test positive, you can't come to school. We stop that from happening because they have a mandate to protect the people in whatever capacity. Now, there is the threat of disease.
Yep.
Government says, wait a minute, if we don't do 1, 2, 3, the chances of our population being wiped out by this disease are very high. So we say, get vaccinated. Initially, we didn't have many numbers in terms of vaccines. Now, 23 million and counting coming into the country. They're available. Please go and get vaccinated. Please go and get vaccinated. Doesn't happen to the numbers that we are wanting. So we say, you know what now? We need to protect our people. If you don't get vaccinated, I deny you 1, 2, 3. It goes along the same lines of practice. However, now you're dealing with where an individual who's a citizen of this country can go or cannot go, do or cannot do. Unfortunately, the lines are grayed.
The government is not addressing the concerns that are being raised by the people. Remember initially when the COVID vaccines arrived in the country, first groups of people that were supposed to receive this were security, frontline doctors and nurses and medical workers and teachers. Medical workers were the biggest in terms of vaccine hesitancy at the point because the government was not talking to them. The government has gone and because the government wants to still play this big PR, national, global PR. I mean, Kenya is also vaccinating its people. I mean, Kenya is also receiving vaccines and deploying them in the country. The whole issue of now going back into the people and the people that you're talking about vaccinating, you're not talking to them, is still the play. What's at play here? It is what's at play. It's the government is not considering the important bits of the information that's coming back from the people.
Do you think, Eric, that then if government were to handle, like these 4 things that we've mentioned here, if government were to handle that then in terms of information, would it then be all right for them to impose this?
They may not need to because the uptake could be higher.
Because people now have an understanding.
Yes.
But because of the fact that you're not explaining to people, that you're not allaying the fears of this lady who is afraid that this vaccine could essentially sterilize her, that you're not allaying fears of this person who was vaccinated once and went through hell and doesn't want to do it again, that this person who got COVID and was and recovered from it, that doesn't feel the need to get vaccinated, because you're not doing communication and awareness of these matters, then
it's contributing to the vaccine hesitancy. And even if you do that and there's still vaccine hesitancy, stop playing the game of Western governments. Western governments are doing this, so they're vaccinating their people and they're forcing their people to get vaccinated. That doesn't mean that you come and force us. No. No. People are arguing against what those governments are doing in Australia, in the States, in the UK, of trying to force, in France, of trying to force people to get the vaccine. And people are saying, you can't force me. And I agree with them. No. If somebody decides not to, leave them alone.
Can
Brian,
I
I can see you on the
Yeah.
line. We want to take a break, but let's just hear from Brian and then we take the traffic break, okay? Brian, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Brian Awunda. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
Yes, Brian.
I am the founder of Make Kenya Green campaign,
Mm-hmm.
as well as a presidential aspirant in the forthcoming election.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I've been following the Situation Room for a pretty long time,
Good.
and I like it because it keeps me up to speed.
Asante.
Yes, now in my contribution for the COVID-19 mandatory vaccination,
Yeah.
I am fully vaccinated myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a believer in following the law. The law includes government policies, which can be put in place from time to time to curtail various situations.
Yes.
Now, the COVID-19 has a lot of theories around them. Maybe we'll come to find out what really COVID-19 and the vaccines are in 2040.
Yep.
Yeah, but meanwhile, for me, I will encourage everyone to be vaccinated. We don't need to be threatened by the government. We don't need to run to court. Personally, I have people who have died of COVID, or so it seems. So I just say, like, you'd rather be on the good side of things.
Yep.
Just in case, like, the vaccine works or whatever works, just be on the good side of things, follow the government. It's never good to be in a tussle with the government.
Okay.
Always going back and forth with the government puts us like we are just mark timing, waiting to be told to move forward.
But
So
then,
I think sometimes,
as an officer of the law, as
yes, sir.
somebody who says like to follow the law as established,
Yes.
is it right for the government to silently mandate people to get the vaccine?
Now that's where that's the tricky part of the law. The law has, even though the law does not operate in a vacuum as we are taught, there are some silent clauses or there are some silent situations that the law does not address. So the elite, so rather the ones who call themselves crafty, are able to go around that. You see, so this is just a matter of misconstruing, or rather the legal construction of things. Yes, you can't force us, but because of the WHO guidelines and everything, that you can't come in person, you can't do all that. They can just use that, like Omicron variant has gone high, you'll be a threat to people in government offices, so if you want in-person services, we won't give that to you. And even if you go to the courts, if you'll even find there was a time we were going to court and the judges were not leaving the chambers. We were seeing them on big screens in courts. Yeah, so it is a threat which is there, and I just believe that as Kenyans, it is time we align and we just do the right thing.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you too. And I'm also hoping that sometime I'll join you in the studio and outlay my presidential ambition.
Indeed. John will take your number and then we'll see. One of these days we'll invite you to the show.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Asante. 25 minutes to 10. Time for a quick break, and then we pick more of your calls. 0719-012-600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Afande hii umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with
partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi. Highs of 24 and lows of 15. It's sunny at 19 in Nakuru. Highs of 26 and lows of 13. 13 will be the low in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 18. Highs of 24. Sunny conditions in Eldoret at 20. Highs of 25 and lows of 13. Looking at cloudy Mombasa at 29. Highs of 33 and lows of 26. While in Malindi, it's partly sunny at 30. Highs of 32 and lows of 27. Mostly sunny conditions at 26 in Kisumu. Highs of 30 and lows of 19. While we see lows of 15 in Kakamega. It's mostly sunny currently at 26, going to highs of 33. Kampala, hazy this morning at 23, highs of 28. And Dar es Salaam, raining continues at 30, highs of 32 and lows of 27. Lagos, sunny at 27, highs of 34 and lows of 25. 24 will be the high in a sunny Johannesburg, currently at 19. Kinshasa is sunny at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24. Looking out into Beijing, it's sunny at 3 degrees. It's going into early evening Friday, highs of 5 and lows of -7. Cloudy conditions at 4 in Paris, highs of 8 and back down to lows of 4. At 5 degrees, London is clear. We'll see highs of 7. It's 0 in New York. Winter weather advisory. Highs of 2 and lows of -6.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice Up Your Life.
Has it died down? Yes, it has in most parts of the city. Coming into the city from Landys Road onto Kamkunji at the roundabout is much easier now. Langata Road traffic has dissipated. The southern bypass is looking pretty good. And it's down to a dull row in industrial area. The CBD is going to take the biggest hit of traffic this morning. Coming out of Westlands, it's a little bit easier to deal with as well as Mombasa Road, so you should be all right. Thika Superhighway, traffic is a dream, gone like the morning mist at noon. We can even get poetic about it. Not too much traffic there. We're seeing a little bit of it coming out of Westlands, though, going towards Chiroma, but it shouldn't be too bad for too long. Through the morning, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. You want to text? Do so on 40127.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
2210.
94.4 Spice FM.
12600. Is the government violating rights by encouraging both public and private sector to deny people services on account of them not having a valid COVID-19 vaccination certificate? Audrey in Kino.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Morning, Do. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Audrey, and Happy New Year to you.
So, I must say I was very skeptical when this was announced by the CAS, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, I was thinking, in this country, Kenya, who is going to send away business because of vaccination and COVID?
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually surprised to see that businesses were taking it up. Yes. But anyway, that aside, I think the government is just trying to cover up its inadequacies with this directive.
How?
Because, let's be honest, have they done enough in ensuring that the Kenyan population is vaccinated? I believe the answer is no. They haven't done enough. And so because of that, they are trying to bully people into taking the vaccine. They do not want to accept their part in the delays in taking up of the vaccine. I will give you an example of why I say this. I was recently at Mpisha for my second jab, which had delayed already due to unavailability of the vaccine, one, and also as well I had a cold and I was told I cannot take the jab when I have a cold. So I was at Mpisha for my second jab, and it wasn't available. In fact, they were saying you'll have to come back after 2 weeks.
Ah.
And this was when the CS was bragging about having over 15 million doses in the country. So I asked myself, you say there are 15 million doses in the country, but these doses are not available to the people. So what are they doing wherever they are?
Not available in the health facilities.
Yes, they're not available in the health facilities, yet you say there are 15 million doses in the country.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah.
So with this, they are trying to cover up their inadequacies, and we are trying to copy what the Western world is doing, forgetting that what works for them will not work for us. We need to find what actually works for us instead of copying policies blindly.
Yep.
Yes.
Tailor-make them to our own circumstances. Thank you, Audrey, and
Exactly.
have a lovely 2022.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Asante. Zachary.
Oh, good morning, people.
Good morning.
You know, I always listen to myself when I'm calling you in the evening, when I'm resting, yeah?
Yeah.
And I told you that I found that I've got a second career. If things come to the worst, my voice is radio-worthy.
Very good.
I don't know whether you passed me on that. Now,
You've passed yourself. That's enough.
oh, okay. Thank you. I should have. And let me tell you, my goat gave birth to two kids. Yeah. So I don't know whether that one qualifies me to be a motivational speaker.
You've started the year on a high.
Yeah, they give birth to two kids. Yeah. So motivational speakers can tell me whether that one now qualifies me to be a motivational speaker. Yeah? Let me say this, yeah. The Situation Room has done a lot because countless times you have talked about the COVID, yeah. And I'm on the side of government. Right now, for those of us who try to follow international news, yeah. There is one they celebrated Djokovic. He plays, I don't know, basketball or what, yeah?
It's tennis. It's tennis.
It's tennis. Tennis, yeah?
Yes.
World number one.
Sure. That guy was detained in Australia. I don't know. Yeah, he should be in Australia.
He's still detained there now.
He's still detained. I heard that his father was trying to complain that the guy is being treated like, I don't know what, yeah?
Yeah.
But the government of Australia has stood its ground. We don't care who you are. Show us proof that you have been vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and you have complied with all the COVID rules that you have laid down.
Yeah.
This tells me that even if it is our president who was to go there, or Mr. Biden or whoever, they would still tell him, have you complied with the rules and guidelines as far as COVID-19 is concerned?
Yes.
And let me say this, Mr. Eric, yeah? I do not know. I don't know. There's a guy there who has said that if the government said that, okay, if you come for vaccination, you go back home with the liver on bread, lollipops, yeah? And it's small sweet. You would find a queue there that you would not even be able to manage. So this means that people know that there is COVID. How it told is they know what it can do, but then they're not getting serious. And this is what I would suggest. Yeah, we saw that when the COVID started, yeah, chiefs were very active in making sure that even in the villages, no gathering was had beyond the around people. If they said, oh, if it is a funeral, okay, only that people who are around to attend that. And they were very, very serious, yeah? If it is a wedding, it is this number of people. If it is a church, first of all, they started by closing the churches, yeah? And I'm not against the churches, but some of these explanations that we are hearing, and I told you I'm very, very active in asking people, have you gone for your vaccination? They tell me, no, why? So, I have gotten a number of people quoting for me the Bible, they were read by their pastors or their church elder. The churches, especially these new churches that have got very loud speakers, yeah? they preach against belief in God, belief in faith. You are going to, if you do not, such kind of nonsense, yeah? Let me say this, even now, not only when I'm going to apply for my IAP, not only when I'm going to a physical government office, yeah? Let that rule apply even in villages. If you're having a gathering, we want those people who are going to gather there, whether it is a feast, whether it is a funeral, whether it is what, let them show that they have been vaccinated or they have started the process of vaccination.
Okay.
Otherwise, anyone who has not been hit by COVID or who has not observed or who is not getting enough news, not only with their locality, but all over the world, yeah? They are the ones who are joking around with this thing, yeah?
Okay.
We want our world back. How do we get it? By making sure that all of us have been made secure, yeah?
Right.
Otherwise, these people who are behaving like Holocaust deniers, there's people who are Holocaust deniers, yeah? In some countries, if you deny that something exists, you are taken to court and you are told, oh, can you answer to this charge, yeah?
Thank you, Zachary.
Thank you and have a nice day.
Good day. Anthony. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning to you all.
Yes.
How is your Langombe, Mombasa?
Yes, Walangombe is cool, and in fact, the other time I met some of my agents at the Blue Room Hotel in Mombasa. Some of them were denied access because there was a requirement for a proof of COVID
vaccine
certificate.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So I had to change another venue so that I may accommodate them all.
Why have they not been vaccinated?
Well, that is best known to an individual.
Did you have a conversation with them to try and understand? Maybe?
I tried to cajole them. And in fact, most of them promised me because I told them to go and get vaccinated at Jocham on Wednesday because that is where you can get Johnson & Johnson once. You get a jab once, you get the certificate there at Jocham Hospital. Yes, every Wednesday it's Johnson & Johnson. You get a jab once and you get certificate and you do away with everything. So I want to cajole all the Nyeri people, Kisauni, Mshomoroni, and all Vita, those people who are living within that Kongowea market. Please, on Wednesdays, go to Jocham and get it once. You get certificate and you go on with your life.
Okay.
So let me tell you, my friend. When we were young, we were being told to go and get vaccinated for polio. Children were screaming there. In fact, many people, we were even going as far as cheating that we are below 10 years so that we may get that vaccination. Why is it taking too long for people to understand the reason why this vaccination is good for us? I think the government should take a bold step that if at all by this particular moment or date or day you are not vaccinated, there must be a mechanism that is going to be placed. Because, look, the government is entitled to protect each and every life of its citizens.
So you support
the vaccination
mandate.
Yeah, I support the vaccination fully, 100%.
And you also support the requirement by government that you must you must show that you've been vaccinated to access some of these facilities.
Yeah, it is correct. Because
so why did you change the venue for your meeting?
I changed the
people that you were meeting
that one was political.
Were not fully vaccinated. Yes, but you want to be a leader, Anthony. You want to be in the county assembly of Mombasa. And if you support this move, if you say that this is the right move and the government should actually roll out this mandate countrywide, you should lead by example. You should have said, if I have called you for a meeting and this facility is saying that you must show proof of COVID vaccine certificate, you don't come to my meeting.
Well, politics is totally different from government initiative.
Oh, okay. So when it's politics, then it's all right to ignore it. When it's politics and for an agenda, then it's all right to ignore it. But every other place we say we must follow the mandate. Yes, my dear. That's
You
what you're
want to corner
saying.
me. Look, my friend, it was not on Wednesday. Suppose it was on Wednesday, I would have even taken initiative to take them and get vaccinated on that very, very day. But it was inconvenience. I couldn't take them and get vaccinated, yet I knew very well that my meeting was also important on my side. So I had to weigh both sides and get mine was to take
On
the
that day,
president
yours was a
over
little
the-
bit more important than the government mandate.
Not that way, but you know, I found myself in a slippery ground, so I had to come back to myself again and continue with my delivery.
It's called
Yeah,
foot,
so, but
mouth.
there's something I want to tell you. Yeah, on Thursday I'll be in Nairobi. So I want you to invite me official. I want to come to your station very early in the morning because around 10 a.m. there I will be in my Kanu offices at Yaya Center. I don't know whether you will allow me.
Anthony, wacha tutazungumza hiyo. You know, you're inviting yourself. You have planned to
I
come
have
to
to
Nairobi.
invite-
You've planned a meeting, and now you want us to fix
into
us
your hours.
into your
No,
into your
just
schedule.
to say hi to you. It's good. It's good. I've
No,
been
it's
in Nairobi, so I have to
indeed
come.
good. It would be
Yeah.
nice. It would be nice to have you around one of these days. But let's have that conversation
Yeah.
offline.
Yes, on
Son.
Friday I'm going to bury my brother who perished in road accident.
Yes, you remember that.
So on
Poleni
Saturday
sana.
I have to pass there.
Poleni sana.
Okay, so you'll invite me. I'll be ready, eh?
Yeah, we wait for John. We'll discuss that. Asante.
Okay, thank you.
Good day. 0719 012 600. You know, politics is different.
Politics is different.
And that's the same argument they have when they say you cannot travel at night. When they say
you cannot have meetings of people
cannot
more than
have
100.
meetings. But politics is
It's
different. I
we
mean,
can have rallies of
can have
thousands
that.
because we have an important message that we must put across.
and it's politics. And politics is a bit different from these other things. Karanja, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and Ndu.
Good morning, Karanja.
Yes, how is it going?
It's going. How are you?
I'm very fine here in Mombasa. The sun is very good.
Good.
It's working very well.
Mm-hmm.
And now let us make our country go forward.
Very good.
Now, let me say this. We may say that the government has done what we call the administrative justice by telling people to go and prove their certificates before they get the government services. Me myself, I think being vaccinated is a very good thing. Given the fact that I'm a father of 4 and I have my wife. We live with my mother who is 80 years. And if maybe I normally call, today I'm in Moro, today I'm in Nakuru, today I'm in Gubernatorial elsewhere. Surprisingly, I may go with a lot of people each and every day. How can I infect my mother who is 80 years old? Or my little daughter?
As in, you're saying, why would you make the decision to infect them by not taking the vaccine?
Exactly, the vaccine is there. We are not paying. It is free.
Yeah.
Why should the people comply as well as go and have this vaccine? Me myself, I have been given a job. A batch number XE443, Johnson and Johnson. Even I took my wife the other day. So why should we not do this? I think the government should impose more sanctions and say this. Whoever who will not go and take that job by 15th of January, they should start paying.
Paying
who? Paying who what?
They should pay this vaccine.
kind of like a penalty. So if you've not paid, pay X amount per day until you take it.
Yes, I think they should give timeline. so that people can rush and be given these jobs. These jobs are ready. They are idle in the hospital. And the people, they are deciding, no, we don't do like this. In fact, let me tell you, there was a time when you don't pay in time for the KRA, they ask you for penalties. I think the government should be very serious and impose sanctions on those people who are denying to go and get those vaccines. Thank you very much, Eric. And you have around a day.
Cheers,
Thank you,
man.
Karanja. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So there are those who are saying, in fact, it should be rolled out properly. That if you do not have a COVID vaccine, don't even get out of the house.
Yeah. See, now, if you want to mandate this thing,
Kama
end
utaki,
to end.
kaa kwa mama yako.
I'm telling you, the protocol, implementation mechanisms and structures are not in place for that kind of thing to happen. You know, in China, when you would step out of your house and something starts beeping, within minutes, somebody shows up and asks you where you're going. Here, how will you start?
You know, yes, there's good reason to talk about, okay, so these vaccines have been developed, these vaccines have been peer-reviewed, these vaccines are, the effect of the vaccines is being observed at a global scale, and so far there's nothing negative that has come out, right? So go ahead and get the vaccine. But then somebody will argue, so far. Somebody else will say, I know somebody who got vaccinated, and I saw how sick they got.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid. There are very many arguments to this. The whole conversation would be, how do you address those who have vaccine hesitancy? How do you address their fears and their concerns and not just blanket all of them and call them anti-vaxxers?
It's true.
They are not COVID deniers. They accept and acknowledge that there is COVID.
But there's a fear that they have, which is a valid fear,
Yes.
in as much as what makes up that fear may not be valid. Now, the onus is on you to pull it apart and say, look, it's actually not. Let me put your fears to bed. We might find that many more people would actually go ahead and get vaccinated. But I think there's a responsibility that lies here, and I think it's important that it needs to be tackled and handled. Otherwise, have a really ugly, unnecessary situation. Can you imagine if we get to the point where it actually is gazetted and the people are throwing up their arms in protest and saying, absolutely not, we will not do this? Which kind of Marxist government is this now that we live? I mean, you know what is going to happen. So you have a beautiful opportunity to share information. Why don't we take advantage of it? And please, I think it is important to state here that we in this room are not saying don't get vaccinated. That's not what we are saying. We have been vaccinated fully. We are saying that there is an opportunity to share information with people who have valid fear. Tell them what's going on.
Don't rubbish the people's fears. Address those fears. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation in this first week of 2022. Join us next week into the second week of 2022. God willing, we'll be here, and CT Muga will have finished sorting out, the issues about sugarcane growing.
You better bring gifts.
And come with miwa.
We better.
Kila mtu miwa ya. Kila mtu akona miwa. Have a lovely day and have a lovely weekend. It's 10 a.m.